At night, Killua, who was following Pakunoda the entire time, was waiting on a tree trunk while observing her. Because it was dark, Pakunoda didn't want to risk traveling and decided to set camp and wait until daybreak to find Uvogin and Krollo. She leaned against a tree, and her eyes were slightly closed with her hand folded on her chest. If a man sees her right now, he will try his hardest to control himself, but Killua was a killer and didn't have such emotions. What's more, he is still a kid and doesn't have any interest in the opposite gender. As a kid, he doesn't have any interest in a woman's body, no matter how enticing they seem. His only goal is to snatch back his badge. He received intense training from childhood. His father wanted to see how capable his son was, so he gave him a target. The goal was far beyond Killua's power and reach. He was a rank higher than Killua. Simply put, if Killua's power is ranked as C, then his target's rank is B. Killua at that time had no chance to win against his target head-on, and the only way he could finish him of his assassination. Killua took up the challenge and stalked his target for 3 days and 3 nights without sleep or food. His eyes were bloodshot from staring at his target for so long, and finally, after waiting for that long, his mark relaxed. Even though it was only for a moment, he decisively attacks and successfully killed him and returned to his father. Killua was sure that even if this woman is strong, she will drop her guard in the end, and at that moment, he would attack. Killua was currently standing on a branch motionlessly, and although he looked at Pakunoda intently, he didn't release killing intent at all. This time, his purpose wasn't killing her. He wanted to grab his badge back. However, Pakunoda wasn't an average person. Even when she rests at night, she seems to be on guard. She is really troublesome. Killua was quite upset by Pakunoda's vigilance. He had to admit that Pakunoda was the trickiest target he even followed. She seemed to be resting with her eyes closed, but he could notice that she was extremely vigilant just from a look. Any move would attract her attention. At this moment, Killua noticed Pakunoda's eyes opening sharply. "Come out," Pakunoda suddenly said, her voice cold and filled with displeasure. It seems that she was grumpy because her rest was interrupted. Killua was shocked. Did she find me? Just when Killua hesitated whether to come out or not, 2 people walked out of the woods and stood in front of Pakunoda. The first person was Pakal, and the second one is Allan. So that's why Pakal followed Pakunoda earlier? So, Allan is hunting Pakunoda. Killua was a little excited. This meant that he could retrieve his badge. Pakunoda was surprised when Allan appeared. She thought that Killua was the one following her. She didn't expect Allan to be here. She glanced at Pakal and quickly understood. "I felt your presence before." Pakal quickly apologized. "Sorry, don't blame me. I'm just doing an errand." Pakunoda ignored Pakal and looked at Allan. "I'm your target?" she asked. Allan nodded, "Yes." "What will you do then?" she asked again. Allan smiled slightly. "It's very simple, hand over your badge, and I will immediately leave." Pakunoda sneered, "Do you think I will?" Allan said, "I hope you can be smart." She guessed what he meant. "I don't want to fight you." Allan once again said, "You should know very well that you can't defeat me." She snorted, and a gun appeared in her hand, pointing directly at Allan. "I will give you 3 seconds to leave, or I will shoot." She gave a warning. If Allan dared to stay, Pakunoda would pull the trigger without hesitation. If it were someone else, they would have already surrendered and left, but Allan didn't. He was given a choice by the system again. 1. Don't retreat. Take Pakunoda's badge. Pakunoda will hate you, and there is a certain chance to provoke the Gene Ryodan. Reward, Black Sword Shusui. 2. Take a step back and let Pakunoda go. You will gain Pakunoda's favor. Reward, Horm Fruit, Tn, Ivankov's hormone fruit. He wouldn't let her go. Allan won't feel happy even if she favored him. She was a member of the Ryodan, after all. Although she was beautiful, he wouldn't go after her. Besides, what the hell is with the reward? Hormone fruit? Allan thought. He didn't want that fruit that will mess him up. He is already pleased with his gender. The other choice's reward was a sword, and it was inevitable. As for being hated by Pakunoda or provoking the Ryodan, he will consider that later. At this moment, Allan didn't heed Pakunoda's warning. When he took the first step forward, Pakunoda directly pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet flew at Allan, but the latter dodged with minimal movement. Pakunoda knew that she couldn't deal with Allan easily and continued to pull the trigger at high speed. Allan predicted the bullet's trajectory using his observation haki and avoided them one after the other. Pakunoda was shooting and keeping her distance from Allan. She reloaded her gun so quickly that it seemed like she didn't stop shooting at all. In just 1 minute, over 50 bullets were fired at Allan, while he dodged all of them. Allan could easily block the bullets even if he didn't evade them. He can use Ken to block them, but since Pakunoda is probably using shoot to coat the bullets and then, it will be quite painful to block them directly. So he would only block them when he can't avoid them. He can also use Nen to create an ice wall directly blocking the bullets, which is more effective than Ken. Pakunoda snorted, and a white gun appeared on her other hand. Try this. Pakunoda pulled the trigger, and directly a firebird flew toward Allan. This wasn't a typical bullet, but a bullet made with conjuration. The power behind the firebird was amazing, but Allan wasn't afraid. He instantly released his Nen and formed an ice wall to block this firebird. Boom! The firebird bullet collided against the ice wall and melted it. The power behind this bird is good. Allan's eyes narrowed as he approved of Pakunoda's power. As far as he knows, Pakunoda was a specialist who can see people's memories, and her weapons are guns. She can shoot a bullet at her companions and share her memory or the memory of someone else. Now, Allan was surprised that she could make other types of bullets like the Firebird one. Although it was powerful, it lacked penetrative power. If not for Allan's ice ability, that bullets would have burned him. The night lightened up by the flames, but the water from Allan's ice extinguished the fire. On a tree trunk not far away, Killua watched the battle with curiosity and awe. So, this is the battle between Nen users? This is interesting. A trace of yearning appearing in Killua's eyes as he imagined himself learning such ability. After the Hunter exam, he decided that he would learn Nen and become a master at it. Unlike Killua, Pakko retreated to the side as he was afraid of being involved in the fight. He stayed far away with hesitation. He was surprised by Allan's power to make ice out of thin air, and he didn't know how Pakunoda shot a bullet that turned into a firebird. He wasn't familiar with Nen, so the scene in front of him was like magic. At this time, Pakunoda pulled the trigger 3 times, sending 3 firebirds toward Allan. Allan's eyes were sharp as he pointed his palm toward Pakunoda and shot a large icicle toward the firebirds. The firebirds and the icicle cancelled each other and turned into steam. The firebirds consumed too much energy, and after firing 3 at the same time, Pakunoda started feeling tired. On the other hand, Allan was relaxed. Pakunoda knew that the firebirds didn't threaten Allan in the slightest. To cause damage to a powerful enemy, a powerful attack is needed. You only have one trick. Pakunoda's eyes turned cold as she looked at Allan. At the same time, her aura started to grow and radiate from her body. Her gun was covered in a dense quantity of Nen that made Allan become alert. He could feel that the next attack will carry the full power of Pakunoda. He was very curious about this new bullet she will use, but he was sure it would be stronger than the Firebird. You will regret coming to get my badge. Pakunoda let out a cold grunt and pulled the trigger. Roar tilde. When the bullet escaped the muzzle of her gun, a tiger roared. The roar scared most of the animals in the forest as birds and beasts alike fled. Pakunoda shouted Byakko through clenched teeth as she seemed somewhat tired. It seems that this move consumed a considerable amount of Nen that had left her exhausted. The bullet transformed into a white tiger looking at Allan fiercely. The white tiger's body was 5 meters long with the word king in the center of its forehead. It was like the king of beasts. Seeing this tiger, Allan frowned. Unexpectedly, Pakunoda had such a move up her sleeve. Before he could react, the tiger rushed forward and pounced on him. This move was one of the strongest moves Pakunoda could use. It was a finishing move that depleted a considerable amount of her nen, and if we turn the amount it consumes into points, it would be around 20,000 points. Pakunoda could only use this move once a day, and it will put a great burden on her body. Byakko roared as it opened its mouth and bit at Allan. It was already too late for Allan to retreat, so he could only hold the tiger's mouth with his hand and kick at its stomach. Byakko immediately roared in pain, while Allan used this opportunity to get up. While Allan still on one knee, the tiger instantly jumped at him. Allan, seeing this, could only use leaf-strong whirlwind to kick the tiger away. The lead-strong whirlwind can easily break a large tree. Sending the tiger away won't be harder than that. Byakko was kicked away several meters away while Allan retreated 2 meters back. What a tiger! Allan balanced himself as he was amazed by this tiger's power. After this short fight, he could tell that it was stronger than a real tiger. If it was an ordinary tiger, he could have kicked it away easily, but this tiger used its claws to defend. He couldn't help looking at Pakunoda, standing behind Byakko, and saw how tired she was. He could tell that Byakko was her trump card. Byakko pounced at Allan once again. Allan flash-stepped away as he avoided Byakko's claws and appeared by his side and used Leaf Cyclone. Byakko was hit hard, but he didn't suffer much damage and quickly got up. Since ordinary attacks can't kill this tiger, Allan will use stronger attacks. He flew into the air using Moonwalk and created an icicle. In an instant, a 3 meters trident appeared in his hand and plunged toward Byakko. Byakko saw the trident coming down. It roared angrily at the sky. The roar caused shockwaves to spread and shattered the trident. This power shocked Allan much as he didn't expect the tiger to be so strong. This tiger was more than 10 times stronger than ordinary ones. Allan directly ascended till he reached 100 meters from the ground, a place that Byakko couldn't hope to reach. What is that guy planning to do? Pakunoda was surprised and confused. She could tell that Allan was releasing a vast amount of nen currently. Allan raised his hand as the coldness surrounded him spread, creating a giant icicle. Smash it for me. The giant icicle flew down like a meteorite from 100 meters above the ground toward Byakko. Byakko wasn't afraid as it raised its head and roared once again. However, this icicle was too giant. The roar could only slow it down and crack it slightly on the surface. Pakunoda bit her teeth and raised her gun, and shot toward the icicle as she saw Byakko's death near. Another tiger pounced out and plunged toward the icicle in midair, combining 2 tigers' power to confront the icicle. Allan descended as soon as she saw this, and with a strong kick, the giant icicle accelerated and pierced through the tigers and embedded them into the ground. In an instant, the ground cracked open as it sent a loud impact. Byakko roared as he saw the ground freezing in a straight line toward him. That roar turned into a sound wave and collided with the ice. It's really violent. Allan stopped his ice field. He was just testing the water with his ice field because he had no way to freeze the tiger right now. The guy evolved and obtained a pair of wings, but that wasn't all he got, as his overall power was enhanced as well. It was the strongest nen beast Pakunoda created to date. At this moment, the heavenly Byakko moved, a gust of wind swept the battlefield, and he appeared in front of Allan in an instant. So fast. Allan was surprised, even though Flash Steps was still faster, but the tiger's speed increased by a large margin. A hurricane blew over, making it hard for Allan to open his eyes. Fortunately, observation hockey saved him as he backed away from the claws about to bisect him. The tiger jumped again and again as he slashed at Allan with extreme speed. Even though it had a massive body, it displayed a surprising speed. The current fight was extremely dangerous because Allan could only use Flash Steps to avoid the sharp claws. As the next attack arrived, Allan directly jumped up and kicked the tiger's forehead heavily. That kick frustrated the tiger as it let out a roar and spread its wings and waved them. Suddenly, Allan found himself facing two wind blades. His only option was using an ice wall to block the wind blades. With a bang, the ice wall shattered while the wind blades dispersed, but the tiger didn't stop as he once again pounced at Allan with his fangs, and before the blow reached the latter's forehead, powerful oppression exploded out of Allan's body. Instantly, Byakko was dazed. Its claws slowed down and allowed Allan to retreat. In the next moment, Byakko recovered and let out an angry roar. Sure enough, even Conqueror's Haki is hardly effective on it. Allan was jumped in the air using Moonwalk while frowning when looking down at the tiger. His Conqueror's Haki wasn't strong enough to influence Byakko and render him unconscious. If he had the highest level of Conqueror's Haki, like Dark King Rayleigh or Red-Haired Shanks, it would be easy. Do I use that super large icicle to kill this guy as well? Allan rubbed his chin as he thought. Ordinary attacks can't seem to affect the tiger, even more so after he evolved. This evolution greatly enhanced its speed and defense. If he doesn't kill it in one shot, it would be easy to kill it slowly. While Allan was deep in his thoughts, Byakko roared and broke his train of thoughts. Looking down, he saw Byakko fluttering his wings and started flying toward him. He was 100 meters up in a blink of an eye with his paw moving down toward Allan's head. If a tiger doesn't show its might, you would treat it like a cat? Allan snorted as a 7-feet-long icicle appeared in his hand and blocked the tiger's paw. In the pitch-black sky, Allan and Byakko collided 100 meters above the ground. Although Allan didn't know any swordsmanship, he can correctly predict Byakko's attacks relying on his observation Hako while using his icicle to attack. At first, the icicle and the sharp claws collided, and the former almost shattered instantly. Allan instantly used Shu to cover the icicle, greatly enhancing it. He relied on the flexibility of Moonwalk to maneuver around Byakko and attacking him. After a few bouts, several wounds appeared on Byakko's body. The hot blood covered the cold icicle. The injured Byakko roared as his wings spread out, sending feathers like arrows toward Allan. He was trying to make Allan look like a hornet nest. Allan didn't expect Byakko to have this kind of attack. While he was shocked, he didn't stop moving as he swung the icicle in his hand to block, but feathers kept coming and raining on him. A few feathers managed to land on his body, leaving a few wounds. But fortunately, he used Ken. The feather couldn't penetrate him and only scratched him slightly. But being overwhelming with this attack wasn't going to end in his favor. Instantly, his nen erupted from his body and turned into hundreds of ice arrows that shot out and collided with the feathers. In terms of speed and power, the feathers and ice arrows were equally matched. So, Allan and the tiger were competing on the amount they could produce. After several waves of feathers against ice arrows, the number of feathers was reduced, and as a result, several ice arrows penetrated the tiger's body. Although the arrows were 18 centimeters long, they could hardly damage Byakko's big body, but the wounds kept accumulating, and the tiger was weakened. This is the best time to kill you, Tilda. Allan once again condensed a hard icicle in his hand and rushed toward the tiger, who raised its claws to attack back. The most noticeable change was Byakko's speed that dropped considerably. Within a minute, Allan wounded the tiger's body several times as the fur on its body was dyed red. Even its claws were nicked from the constant defending. Byakko didn't care about his injuries. It rushed toward Allan regardless. It was determined to defeat Allan no matter what. Allan didn't fight back as he moved higher and higher. Byakko didn't care as he followed after him while attacking with his feathers. When Allan reached an altitude of 500 meters, he sneered and stopped, then turned toward Byakko and slashed. Byakko reacted instantly by opening its mouth and biting the icicle. But Allan didn't stop and kicked the tiger's head up before dropping another kick on its forehead. Due to that kick's power, Byakko started falling from an altitude of 500 meters like a cannonball. At this time, a figure burst out from the trees, quietly moving toward Pakunoda. That person used the dark night as a cover as he restrained his breathing and approached quietly. Pakunoda was too focused on the fight between Byako and Allan to notice anything strange. Killua approached quietly and wanted to knock Pakunoda out with one blow from behind. But when he got close enough, Pakunoda noticed him and instantly turned around and blocked Killua's attack. Killua used all of his power, thrust his hand into Pakunoda's chest, and directly broke her ribs. Pakunoda snorted and withdrew while looking at Killua. "Smelly kid, you were following me." "Give me back my badge," Killua said. "It's here if you can take it, that is." Pakunoda stretched her hand, bringing out Killua's badge, and shook it provocatively. "Damn it." Killua looked upset. He was hiding in a distant tree the whole time waiting for an opportunity, and when he saw Pakunoda focused on Allan and the tiger, he launched his attack, but it failed. However, it wasn't a complete failure. Although the surprise attack failed, he still broke her ribs. Moreover, he could feel that Pakunoda was too weak compared to before. Bang! Pakunoda took her gun and directly shot at Killua. Seeing this, Killua immediately used his rhythm echo as he turned into several after images avoiding the bullets. While shooting at Killua, Pakunoda started moving back. Because she summoned Byako twice, she used almost 40,000 nen points because each one requires 20,000 points. Her maximum nen output was about 70,000 nen points. So, when Allan killed the first tiger, she lost 20,000 points, then to heal the remaining tiger, she used 10,000 points and more than 10,000 to make the tiger evolve. She, at most, has 1,000 nen points. She doesn't have enough power to subdue Killua in her current state. However, Killua wasn't any better since the gunshot wound on his left shoulder still didn't recover. However, if Killua's goal were to kill this woman from the start, he would have killed her. But his goal was to knock her out and get his badge back. "Return my badge to me, and I will immediately leave," Killua said seriously. Pakunoda shot another bullet at him. This was her answer. Killua immediately launched forward toward Pakunoda with killing intent this time. However, suddenly a violent wind came from behind him as Byako appeared and, with one swing of his paw, sent Killua flying into the forest. Pakunoda was excited when she saw Byako appearing. However, seeing it covered in blood and its body full of the wound made her expression turn cold. "Byako, you did your best to protect me." Pakunoda stretched her hand and patted Byako's head. Although it was just a nen beast, it was still the knight that guarded her. Byako lost its previous bearing as it crawled on the ground and obediently let Pakunoda caress it. At this moment, Pakunoda's expression suddenly changed as a terrible killing intent exploded from the sky. And from above, Allan swept down with his icicle in hand toward Byako. Byako instantly stood up in front of Pakunoda and defended with the last of his powers. Allan's icicle didn't have mercy as it directly beheaded Byako, which made Pakunoda's face gloomy. Seeing Byako disappearing and turning into nothing, she raised her head and said, "I won't forgive you." Pakunoda seemed ready to kill him, which made Allan smile. "Drop it, Pakunoda-san, you have already lost, and it won't do any good to fight further. Dying is better than submitting to you." Pakunoda pointed her gun at Allan and shot it without hesitation. "Huh, is this your final answer?" Allan sneered. "He just killed the heavenly white tiger, does she think a normal bullet will kill him?" Allan disappeared and appeared in front of Pakunoda, who couldn't react and disarmed her. "I will temporarily confiscate this dangerous toy for now." Allan twisted his hand and broke her wrist, and easily took her gun off. Although he was a bit rude, he did not pity a woman like Pakunoda. At this time, Pakunoda snorted and kicked Allan between his legs. "Pakunoda-san, you shouldn't kick a man there." When Allan saw the kick coming, he clamped his legs to ensure his little brother's safety. Allan restrained Pakunoda, causing her to shout, "Let me go." Allan arrogantly gazed at her body and said, "I can let you go, but you have to hand over your badge. That's the only thing that matters to me. Hand it over, and I won't do anything to you." Although he didn't know where Pakunoda hid the badge, he could guess that she hid them on her opi since there was no other place to hid them looking at her clothes. 2 space is infinite. They can hold anything. Pakunoda turned her head around proudly and said, "Give up, you won't take my badge." Allan laughed and wasn't angry. "Up to you." Seeing that Allan was about to do something, Pakunoda tried her best to struggle out of Allan's hold, but she wasn't strong enough. "Pakunoda-san, you aren't strong compared to the other spiders, are you?" Allan guessed this from the power Pakunoda was exerting to struggle out of his hold. So, he concluded that she was at the bottom of the Ryodan in strength. Allan tried to suppress her gently, but her struggle started to annoy him. "Pakunoda-san, you can stop the needless struggle. If you dare move again, I will do this seriously." After saying this, Allan stretched his left hand and grabbed Pakunoda's neck, lifting her 4 or 5 centimeters above the ground. The moment Allan picked her up, she seemed like a weak woman that couldn't defend herself. Pakunoda's specialty should be espionage. This is why she wasn't as strong as the other members. Allan didn't let her go. He wanted to make this woman feel the fear of death. Although she wasn't afraid of death, it was still worthwhile to let her understand a thing or two about it. While she didn't struggle anymore, Pakunoda still had no intention to give Allan her badge. She had that look on her face that said, "I'd rather die than surrender." As a member of the Ryodan, her pride doesn't allow her to compromise. And another thing, they were the Ryodan, they were the ones to do the robbing. When was it the other way around? That's why she was reluctant to hand over her badge. If she compromises, she felt that it would be the defeat of the Ryodan as a whole. "Pakunoda-san, you sure are a proud woman." Seeing her like this, Allan smiled as he decided to crush this woman's pride completely. He tightened his hand around her neck, making her face red. "Pakunoda-san, how do you feel about suffocating?" Allan sneered as his hand tightened further. Pakunoda couldn't breathe anymore, and her consciousness became blurry. She felt death approaching bit by bit. Is this guy truly going to strangle me to death? When she saw Allan's sneer, Pakunoda realized that he was joking or scaring her. He really planned on killing her. Allan finally said, "Listen, Pakunoda-san, I will give you one last chance. Although I know that you're not afraid of death, is it worth it to die for a numbered badge? Moreover, even if you don't give it to me, I can still kill you and take it from your corpse. That pride won't do you any good." Allan's words shook Pakunoda. Indeed, if she calmed down a bit, she would realize that death is not worth a badge in an exam. Seeing her reaction, Allan spoke, "Pakunoda-san, if you don't hand over your badge willingly, then I will even do something ichi to you." Although Pakunoda wasn't experienced in that field, she wasn't too dense to not understand his meaning. She coldly said as Allan threatened, "Do you dare threaten me?" Allan simply laughed, "Yes, it's a threat. You should be clear about your current predicament. You have no choice. If you don't cooperate, even if you are a member of the Ryodan, I will still follow through my threat." Pakunoda glared at Allan, "If you dare touch me, I promise you will regret it." Allan sneered, "Why? Do you think Krilo will kill me? Or do you want all of the Ryodan to chase me down?" Hearing Allan's words, Pakunoda could tell that Allan knew them very well. "Who are you? You don't need to know who I'm. I won't hesitate to kill you even if you're a member of the Ryodan. That's what you need to know. If they annoy me, I will just kill them all." Of course, Allan was bluffing. If someone wanted to fight with all the Ryodan, unless they are as powerful as the Zoldyck or a monster like Netero, they wouldn't be able to do anything. So he just wanted Pakunoda to know that he wasn't easy to deal with. He understood the spiders and knew each of their weaknesses. Allan was making a bet. He wanted to see if he can subdue Pakunoda. He won the bet as Pakunoda handed over the badge to Allan without a word. Not just one but two. One was her badge, and the other was Killua's. Allan frowned because he knew that badge number 99 belonged to Killua. "I got this badge from the silver-haired kid," Pakunoda said honestly. Sure enough, Allan immediately asked, "It shouldn't be so easy for him to give his badge to someone. How did you get it?" "Of course, I took it by force. Do you think someone will just hand over his badge to others? Pakunoda said coldly. Allan shrugged. He didn't care about her current reaction. By the way, you didn't kill Killua, did you? Allan changed the subject subtly. He knew that the Ryodan didn't care about life at all. They would kill anyone standing in their way, but he didn't believe that she could kill Killua. Killua? Is it that silver-haired kid? Pakunoda said coldly. He tried to attack me just now, but he was sent flying by my Nen beast. I don't know if he is alive. Allan was surprised, but he wasn't worried about Killua. Even without Nen, he could survive an attack from that tiger with his physical strength, but he probably hurt. Pakunoda thought for a bit before she said, "Listen well, Allan, don't think that just because you won today, I will give up. You took something from, and I will get it back, so for now, keep the number 18 badge, and I will take it back someday." Allan didn't refuse. "Okay, I will be waiting for the, but." He looked at her and sneered, "If you fail, you will most likely be enlightened about the thing that happens between a man and a woman." Pakunoda understood his meaning and snorted before walking into the forest. Although nothing is wrong if you look at her, her body was injured. First, she used too much Nen that her body was current like a desert, wholly deprived of Nen. Then Killua broke a few ribs, Allan broke her wrist, then almost suffocated her. Therefore, she needed a quiet place on the island to rest before the hunter exam is over. She won't be able to move freely in the next few days. The system's notification suddenly echoed inside Allan's head as soon as Pakunoda left. Ding. You attacked Pakunoda and successfully took her badge. Reward, Black Sword Shusui. Suddenly, a black sword appeared in front of Allan out of thin air. Shusui is one of the 21 Owazamono swords, and he is one of the few black-bladed swords. This sword was extremely tough. Even if a giant step on it, it won't bend even a millimeter. When Allan touched the sword, a strange feeling spread through his body. He first felt heaviness, but the sword itself wasn't heavy. The weight he felt was some kind of pressure released from the sword. Without a certain amount of power, it is impossible to wield a black sword. The second feeling he got was life, not from the sword itself, but its existence. Allan clearly felt that something was inside the sword. It was emitting a presence that didn't belong to the sword. However, Shusui itself wasn't an ordinary sword, so even if it had a sword spirit, it wouldn't be surprising. 1. However, Shusui didn't mean anything to Allan because even when he got a good sword, he didn't know how to use it. He wasn't a swordsman. To be able to use Shusui, he at least had to learn the rhythm of all things. So, for now, Shusui was just a weapon in his possession. With his Nen, he can make icicles whenever he wanted after all. Allan tried waving Shusui a few times, hoping to send a flying slash easily like Zoro. Who am I kidding? This is the first time in my life that I held a sword, and I want to be like Zoro? Did Gon rub on me that much? Allan thought sarcastically before comforting himself. He won't become a master overnight. Zoro started training from when he was a child in the dojo after all. So, should I try to take the swordsman path? Getting Shusui made Allan think about it. 1. If he wants to become a swordsman, then regular training won't be enough. Allan thought for a while and concluded that he needed a master swordsman to help him train, and with his knowledge, he could only think of 2 people that can be described as swordsmen. The first one is Nobunaga from the Ryodan, and if we can consider Phaeton Porter as a half-swordsman, and he is also a member of the Ryodan. 1. But even though they are swordsmen, they have no honor, which means they aren't real swordsmen. Allan decided to let it go. He doesn't need to train as a swordsman. For him, Shusui was just a weapon. It made no difference if he had it or other weapons. Allan directly stored Shusui into his storage ring. He will put it there until a time when he needs it. At this time, another notification echoed in his head. Ding. You have scored 5 points before the time limit. Reward, Senzubin X1. Senzubin. Origin, Dragon Ball World. Effect, heal any kind of injury and restore stamina. Special reminder, if you eat this when you're on the verge of death, you will be resurrected. In other words, it can save you as long as you are still breathing. Allan looked closely at the abilities of the senzu bean and was quite satisfied with its power. With a senzu bean, it was like having two lives. Allan decided to cherish this senzu bean because he didn't know when the system would give out another one. Allan was in an excellent mood at the moment. He had the number 118 badge that Hisaka gave him, the number 53 badge he took from Pakal, the number 18 that belonged to Pakunoda, and Killua badge along with his own. Now that he had Pakunoda's badge, his total points were enough to pass this part of the exam. "Oh no, Allan?" Allan suddenly heard someone calling out to him and turned around to see Pakal. "Why are you still here?" Pakal's sweat dropped and said, "I want to go already, but Allan, you didn't give me my badge as you promised yet." "Oh, I almost forgot about that." Allan didn't need the extra points as he already got the reward from the system, so he directly returned Pakal's badge. Pakal directly thanked him and left. He was hiding far away, observing the fight, and after seeing Allan's power, he didn't want to provoke him at all. He didn't know Allan's personality that well, so he wasn't sure that Allan would return his badge. "Oh, now that I think about it, what happened to Killua?" Allan suddenly remembered Pakunoda's words. Although he wasn't that close to Killua, he can't ignore him now. Let's look for him. After using observation hockey for a while, Allan felt something weak but alive, not far away. That should be Killua. Soon he found Killua lying upside down with blood over his mouth. Fortunately, he wasn't dead or heavily injured. Allan admired this guy. He should have been the original protagonist instead of Gon. "Do you want help?" "No, I can handle this." Allan only asked as a courtesy anyway. And he also knew that Killua didn't accept help because he didn't want to owe favors, just like his brother. "By the way, what happened to that woman?" Killua asked as he sat up. "Dead." "What?" Looking at Killua's surprise, Allan burst out laughing. "Just kidding. I didn't kill her, just a few wounds here and there." Killua then asked instantly, "Then, you got her badge?" "Yeah." Allan nodded and threw a badge to Killua. "This is yours, right? She also gave it to me, but I don't need it. You can have it back." Killua was surprised. "Is it okay to give it to me? After all, she took it away because I'm weak, and you took it from her because you're stronger than her." "Don't worry about the details." Allan smiled. "I don't have any need for it anyway. You're not my target, so there is no point in having more points." Killua took his badge and smiled bitterly before saying, "Okay, I will remember this favor." Like this, Killua owed Allan a favor because he knew that no matter how much he would have tried, he won't be able to snatch his badge back from Pakunoda. So, he had to accept. "Well, maybe I will have something in the future that would require a professional assassin," Allan laughed. Pakunoda already promised to take revenge on him, so he can't let an opportunity to get the Zoldyck's favor go to waste. Of course, Allan didn't fancy Killua's favor, but the Zoldycks as a family, because Killua had his family behind him. If he needed something and asked Killua, the latter would do almost anything to return the favor, even if it means to ask his father or grandfather for help. Moreover, when Pakunoda left, she said she would come back to take the badge from him, which means she planned to do it herself without involving the Ryodan. If that was the case, Allan could sigh in relief because he would still be safe from the Ryodan. Allan patted Killua on the shoulder as he threw all of those ideas to the back of his head. "Then, I will go find Gon first. You can find a place to rest." "I will go too," Killua spoke. Allan nodded. "I don't mind, but is your injury okay?" "It's just a small matter." Killua smiled. But Allan could see that Killua was trying his best to endure the pain. "You're seriously injured, aren't you? Find a place to take a rest. I will go to Gon by myself," Allan said with concern. Killua realized that Allan saw through him and nodded. He took 2 badges and threw them at Allan. "I don't need those badges, give them to Gon if he needs them." Allan didn't say anything. He just accepted them and said, "Well, I will tell Gon that you're the one who gifted those 2 badges then. Killua gave Allan 2 badges, one was Amari's, and the other was Amori's. As for Amori's badge, it was his target, so he kept it for himself. With this, Killua had 6 points and can pass this phase of the exam. However, there are still 3 days and a half left before the end of this phase. During this time, no one is guaranteed to pass the exam. Furthermore, Killua suffered a gunshot wound and a few fractured ribs, which is why Allan suggested that he should take a rest and tend to his injuries. On the other hand, with the badges he had now, Allan accumulated 9 points, so he planned on giving Gon the extra 3 points he had if Gon couldn't take his target's badge. Although Allan didn't know who Gon's target was, he believed that Gon could keep his badge. This way, as long as Allan gives him the extra 3 points, Gon would pass this phase of the exam. However, the most challenging thing now is finding Gon on this island. If he were lucky, he would need half a day. If he wasn't lucky, he might not find him till this phase ends. I hope I can find him before this test ends. Time passed, and the last day of the test arrived. There were less than 8 hours left before the end of this test. However, Allan still wandered around the island. He was moving for about 3 days without finding Gon, which made him worried. Did something happen to Gon? Although he didn't want to believe this speculation, he still couldn't deny the possibility of that happening. After all, Gon was the same Gon from the show. There are a few things that weren't the same as the show as the plot deviated from Allan's interaction. At this time, about 10 kilometers away from Allan, a blond young man was running through the forest as a fierce man was rushing toward him. No matter how fast or agile he moved, the man behind him was getting closer. Everyone should have guessed already, Uvogin was chasing after Kurapika. Suddenly, Uvogin leaped ahead of Kurapika and blocked his path. Kurapika coldly looked at Uvogin and said, "Why are you attacking me?" "Well, I'm here to hunt you. Of course, I will attack you. By the way, my name is Uvogin. If you beg for mercy, I might let you go." Uvogin grinned like a beast. "I'm not interested in knowing your name," the blonde said coldly. Uvogin sneered, "Before I attack, let me confirm, you're Kurapika, candidate number 404, right?" Although he didn't know where that guy heard about him, there is no denying it at this point. Uvogin grinned as Kurapika stayed silent. "Hey, are you afraid?" "Damn it." Kurapika took a fighting stance facing Uvogin. This was the greatest challenge he encountered so far. He already obtained the 6 points needed to pass this test. If no trouble found him in the last hours, he would have passed this test, but Uvogin intervened. He already saw the fight between Uvogin and Allan, so he directly turned around and ran as soon as he saw Uvogin. However, he underestimated Uvogin's determination, as the latter eventually caught up. He was fortunate enough to witness Allan and Uvogin's fight and knew very well that no matter what he does, he won't be able to fight against Uvogin. But now, there was nothing else he can do except fighting Uvogin. But Uvogin was like a beast playing around with its prey. "I will let you escape for 10 seconds and then start attacking. How about that? I'm very compassionate, aren't I?" Uvogin started to count, and at that moment, Kurapika realized that this would be his last opportunity to escape. He started running without hesitation, which made Uvogin touch the back of his head and mutter, "What the hell, he run away." But Uvogin didn't catch up and just waited for 10 seconds. "I remember the Kurta clan weren't so easily scared, this kid seems like a wimp." Uvogin looked at Kurapika running away with disdain. He remembered when they slaughtered the clan. No one ran away even after knowing they would die in the end. They all chose to defend the tribe with their lives. Although they died in the end, the way they fought left a good impression on him. However, Kurapika didn't hesitate to escape just now, which made the Kurta clan's heroism in his eyes diminish greatly. Did the leader make a mistake? Is this kid a survivor of the Kurta clan? He doesn't have many similarities to those red-eyed people. Initially, when he gave Kurapika 10 seconds to escape, He expected him to feel humiliated and angry, which will make him rush forward and get beaten to death. But Kurapika ran away without hesitation. Uvogin didn't plan on letting him go, and as soon as 10 seconds passed, Uvogin followed after him quickly. Because Kurapika running away made Uvogin want to torture him even more. Kurapika was the only remaining member of the Kurta clan. His only goal in life after that day was to avenge his family. After investigating for some time, he found out that the ones who murdered his clan were the Gene Ryodan. So he started to train, and after 5 years, his body was healthy, while he didn't have any excess muscles to hinder his movement. In those 10 seconds, Kurapika ran 500 meters in one breath, which gave him some hope. If I can pull the distance, even more, I will be able to get away and find somewhere to hide. I must pass this test, I must not give my badge away. Kurapika suddenly noticed someone approaching him fast. He couldn't help glancing back, only to see Uvogin almost right behind him. There were about 20 meters between them, and the distance was gradually shrinking. Damn it! Kurapika cursed as he ran as hard as he can. You're quite fast, Uvogin said with excitement. In his eyes, Kurapika was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, and when that lamb ran away, it made the hunter very excited. After 10 minutes, Kurapika stopped running. A 50 meters cliff appeared in front of him, leading directly toward the sea. Although he won't die if he jumps down, he will be seriously injured. His last option now is to fight against Uvogin, as jumping down was his last resort. It seems that you're out of luck. Uvogin stood 8 meters behind Kurapika with a sneer on his face as he looked at the latter playfully. Kurapika looked at Uvogin vigilantly. If you have given me your badge honestly, I would have let you go, but it won't be easy now, Uvogin said excitedly. Although his goal was getting the badge, he is more interested in hunting others as he was a sadistic bastard. With Kurapika hitting a dead end, Uvogin was looking forward to the former's reaction. Will he jump down the cliff, surrender, or fight back? Kurapika gazed at Uvogin coldly and understood that he was crazy. When encountering those types of psychopaths, showing weakness can guarantee your death. There is just one way out, and it's fighting back. Although he looks strong, I didn't train those past few years to die easily. I endured what normal people can't imagine, to reach where I'm now. Seeing Kurapika taking a fighting stance, Uvogin was surprised. Weren't you running just now? Are you going to fight because I drove you to a dead end? You're weak. You can't defeat me, so just give up and kneel, beg for mercy, and I will let you go. Uvogin looked at Kurapika in contempt, which made him angry. Who do you think you are? I'm not weak. What I have to endure is something that you can't even imagine. Kurapika pulled out 2 blades from under his clothes and clenched them tightly. I will let you see if I'm weak or not, you bastard. Kurapika rushed forward with swords in hand before slashing at Uvogin fiercely. Good power. Uvogin showed a slight approval, but he still didn't make any movement as if he looked down on Kurapika's attack. When the blade made contact with Uvogin's shoulder, Kurapika felt that he struck a steel plate. Kurapika was taken aback because his full power attack couldn't even scratch his opponent's skin. Instead of hurting his opponent, his hand felt numb from the impact instead. His blade cracked before breaking in half. What the hell is this guy? Kurapika was shocked and quite shaken by Uvogin's power. He thought that even if he can't deal with his opponent, at least he can trade some injuries. However, he was naive. He overestimated his power and underestimated his foe. Uvogin's body was as strong as a steel wall. It was almost invulnerable. Is this your power? Just so. Facing someone like Uvogin, Kurapika started doubting everything he experienced and the result of his training. Uvogin grinned as he raised his fist and slammed it at Kurapika. Try not to die. If this punch hits you, you're dead. Uvogin grinned as he balled his fist down at Kurapika, who was terrified now. Boom. At the last second, Kurapika managed to retreat and avoid Uvogin's punch. The fist slammed on the stop he was at before, and the ground split open like a spider web of cracks spread on the rocky surface. Kurapika regained his balance as he sighed in relief. However, he didn't relax. Uvogin was too strong. He wasn't a match for this monster. I used all my power in my attack, but he didn't even raise a hand to block, and when he randomly punched me, I could have died. Kurapika realized the gap between their strength. Kurapika tried looking for a path he can escape from, but he could only think of the cliff behind him. But if he jumps down, he wasn't sure he could survive the fall. Jumping down was his last choice. Kurapika clenched his fists before he remembered his revenge. "You're seeking revenge," Uvogin said suddenly. "What?" Kurapika looked at Uvogin in surprise as he wondered how the latter knew this. He never told anyone about his origin, but Uvogin knew about his secret. This guy knows about his origin and the Kurta clan massacre. That is the only explanation. "Who are you?" Uvogin moved his index as he provoked Kurapika. "If you want to know, come defeat me." Damn it. This guy definitively knows something. Kurapika finally drew another weapon from his clothes. "I have one chance to succeed. If he let me attack like before as the first time, I should be able to pull this off." Kurapika took a deep breath and launched himself toward Uvogin. He swung the new weapon at Uvogin with all his might. As Kurapika expected and hoped, Uvogin ignored his attack. However, when the dagger was about to hit him, he sent a backhanded punch at Kurapika's head. Kurapika avoided this punch in the last possible moment, as it was about to blow his head off. At the same time, Kurapika swung his dagger and slashed Uvogin's arm fiercely. When he succeeded in his attack, Uvogin once again attacked. Kurapika couldn't dodge the second punch, and in desperation, he placed his hands in front of him and blocked with all his might. The power behind the punch blasted Kurapika away toward the cliff. Fortunately, he stopped before falling. Uvogin ignored Kurapika as he looked at the 3-centimeter cut on his arm and frowned. "You scratched me? That dagger is sharp. You reap what you sow. You shouldn't have allowed me to attack you." Kurapika stared at Uvogin coldly. "Huh?" Uvogin was surprised that Kurapika was able to get up, after receiving my punch. "You can stand up? You definitively surprise me there. However, I guess your hands are currently useless, at least for some time." Indeed, Kurapika blocked Uvogin's attack with his hands, which broke them. He couldn't even move his hands right now. However, Kurapika didn't care at all, as he sneered at Uvogin. "Although my hands are temporarily useless, I achieved my goal." "Goal?" Uvogin frowned. In the next second, Uvogin felt numbness spreading all over his body. "What?" His complexion changed slightly as he suddenly realized, "So, you coated your dagger in anesthetic." Kurapika sneered. "It seems the effect has finally kicked in. I have to say, your body is too strong. It took more than 10 seconds for you to feel numb. Fortunately, you're an arrogant guy. If you attacked me before, then you most probably would have killed me. Contempt is the most stupid act you can do when facing an unknown opponent." "What the hell are you talking about? Don't underestimate me. Some anesthetic can't affect me." Before he could finish speaking, Uvogin knelt on the ground with a bang as he put his hand on the ground. Kurapika sneered. "Do you think that the anesthetic I used was just a normal one? It was extracted from the black queen bee's sting, an endangered species with a super anesthetic. 0.5 gram of it can render an elephant unconscious in seconds, and I put 5 grams on the dagger. It's enough to put down dozens of elephants. Even if your body is strong, you can't be immune to it. In another half a minute, you won't be able to move at all." "Bastard." Uvogin started feeling numb all over his body and realized that Kurapika wasn't exaggerating. Thinking that his body would be unable to move just because of a 3-centimeter scratch on his skin made Uvogin almost boil in anger and shame. "I will kill you." Uvogin glazed at Kurapika as he roared viciously. Unfortunately for Uvogin, the anesthetic was beyond his imagination. He was losing all feeling in his body quickly. As time went by, most of Yuvalgin's body lost the power to move. He couldn't move and attack Kurapika, but he refused to let him go like that. Don't think you can get away. It was extremely difficult for him to open his mouth. What a terrifying guy. He can still talk, what a monster. Kurapika frowned as he stared at Yuvalgin coldly. However, no matter how strong his body is, he won't be able to stay up for long. The effect of the anesthetic will get stronger as time passes. As long as he loses consciousness, I can leave. At this time, Yuvalgin raised his left hand and clenched his fist. A large amount of nen concentrated on his hand. Even though he can't move his body, he can control his nen easily. He injected a large amount of nen into his hand that could barely move. Kurapika's expression changed as he felt the sudden change in the atmosphere. Although he didn't learn nen yet, he can feel the terrifying energy Yuvalgin emanates from his body. If I'm hit with that attack, I will definitively die. I need to get away from here. Kurapika became anxious. However, I'm at least 7 or 8 meters away from him. He can't attack me from this distance with his paralyzed body. In other words, he is aiming at the ground to throw me off the cliff. Kurapika instantly wanted to get away from the cliff, but Yuvalgin was on his way and will attack him as soon as he gets closer. At this moment, Yuvalgin already brought his fist down. I won't let you run. Take my Big Bang impact. Yuvalgin thought. Yuvalgin poured at least 20,000 nen point in that Big Bang impact. Instantly, the ground was destroyed. The impact threw Kurapika into the air and toward the sea, 50 meters down. Damn it. Is this how it ends? I will probably die after I fall into the sea. At this moment, something moved from the forest and attached itself to Kurapika's clothes before yanking him back toward the ground. But he already fainted due to the shock from the Big Bang impact. When Kurapika woke up, he found himself lying on the grass inside the forest. What happened? As he slowly opened his eyes, Kurapika saw a hedgehog hare wearing green clothes and holding a fishing rod. Gone? Gon nodded. Kurapika, you're finally awake. You saved me? Kurapika couldn't believe this. Gon nodded again. Well, when you fell off the cliff, I caught you using my fishing hook and pulled you back the same way I pull a fish. So, that's what happened. Kurapika remembered falling toward his doom before feeling something pulling him back. He definitively didn't expect a fishing hook to save his life. Kurapika thought for a bit before asking, by the way, Gon, how long was I out? About 4 hours. It's 2 p.m. That long, huh? Kurapika murmured. He knew that it was due to Yuvalgin's attack, but not to that extent. What kind of power was that? How can a human have such power? Even though he was rescued, he was still afraid of such power. That's Nen. Gon answered, even though Kurapika was muttering to himself. Kurapika was taken aback. How do you know that, Gon? Because I learned Nen, although I'm considered just a beginner. Gon replied honestly. Kurapika frowned and said, Gon, I didn't think you were that strong. Can I ask you what is Nen? Gon thought for a bit before he touched the back of his head and said, Nen is just the life energy we have inside our bodies. When we learn how to harness it, we call that Nen. Kurapika understood the main point, so it's life energy? This means that everyone can learn it, right? Well, yes, but I don't know too much because I haven't been training for long. Gon looked down as he felt slightly ashamed about his inability to help. Kurapika smiled. Gon, you're really amazing. You are younger than me, but still much strong. I'm envious of you. He, do you want to learn Nen, Kurapika? Gon smiled. Kurapika clenched his fist unconsciously. Well, if I have a choice, I would like to learn because I need to avenge my family. Well, after the hunger exam is over, you can ask Allan to teach you, Gon said. Allan? Is he the one that participated in the exam with you? Yeah, you should already know him. I have an impression. Although I didn't talk to him, he seemed quite strong. Kurapika answered. Allan is great, Gon exclaimed. So, Gon, you learned Nen from Allan? Kurapika asked curiously. Yes. Gon nodded vigorously. So, if I asked Allan, will he teach me? Kurapika asked. Gon thought for a while then said, I think he would because Allan is a good guy. As long as you become his friend, he will teach you unconditionally. Just become his friend. Kurapika smiled and said, I can rest assured after hearing your words, Gon. I will ask Allan after the exam. Let's keep quiet for the time being. Okay, no problem. Gon gave him a thumbs up. Suddenly, Kurapika realized that his arms were bandaged. Gon, did you do this for me? Gon nodded, yeah, I have set them back in their place, used some herbs I picked nearby to heal them, and then bandaged them. It shouldn't be a big problem anymore. But you can't move yet. You should rest for some time. Kurapika was grateful, thanks a lot for your help, Gon. He, don't worry, we're friends. Gon waved his hand shyly as he wasn't used to anyone thanking him. By the way, Gon, why were you there? Kurapika asked. Gon didn't hide anything from Kurapika. He told him about Uvoin being his target and how he followed him secretly for days but couldn't attack since he knew that he wasn't Uvogin's match. When I found that you were his target, I knew that my opportunity is coming. So, I waited in the forest. Gon then apologized, I'm sorry, Kurapika. I didn't come out to help you instantly. It's okay, Gon. That guy is too strong. Even if you came out, the two of us wouldn't have any chance against him. Hiding in the forest and waiting for an opportunity is the best choice. You helped me in the end, and that's what matters. Kurapika smiled. Gon shyly touched the back of his head and said, You're welcome. We are friends, after all. Gon, did you take that guy's badge? Kurapika asked. Gon nodded. When you were attacking him, I used my fishing rod to steal his badge from his chest. That's good then, Gon. You can pass this phase of the exam now, Kurapika sighed in relief. Gon said, there are still 4 hours before the test is over. We should wait till then. Kurapika frowned at this moment. I don't think Uvogin would give up easily. That guy is a maniac. Gon smiled and said, it's okay, as long as he meets Allan, Uvogin won't be able to do anything to us. However, as soon as Gon's voice fell, both heard a roar not far away. The roar was full of anger, which made their expression change. It's Uvogin, Gon said. How is that possible? Did he recover from the anesthetic that fast? Kurapika was surprised. That is a super anesthetic, you know. I can make dozens of elephants sleep for hours. A few hours passed and he already recovered? Kurapika, although your anesthetic is strong, a guy like Uvogin won't be affected by it for long. His willpower is extreme, and his body is above that of a human, and an anesthetic can't affect him for long. Sure enough, just as Gon said, after the roar, the astonishing aura was approaching them. At this moment, Uvogin was extremely angry. He woke up and realized that someone snatched his badge. He was already angry when Kurapika tricked him and paralyzed him, but now, he was dead furious. Australian dollars holes, you dare to snatch my badge and escape. No matter who you are, I will find you, and I will kill you. Although Uvogin didn't see who took his badge, he sensed Gon in the forest. There are 2 presences in the forest, one is the Kurtaz survivor, and the other should be the one who took my badge. Feeling Gon and Kurapika's presence, a cruel smile appeared on Uvogin's face. At this moment, Allan, who was looking for Gon, felt Uvogin's aura. That's Uvogin, and he seems angry. I will go take a look. Allan immediately turned around and went toward Uvogin. He already fought him 3 times and was very familiar with his aura and presence. That guy is as violent as ever. I don't know who angered him this time. On the other side, Gon and Kurapika were hiding as best as possible, but Uvogin was still getting closer. Feeling Uvogin approaching, Gon looked at Kurapika. Kurapika, hide here. I will go and lead him away. You take that opportunity to slip away. Kurapika flatly refused. Gon, I won't leave you behind. Kurapika, you're injured. If Uvogin finds you, he will definitively kill you. Gon explained. Kurapika had nothing to refute. Indeed, he was useless right now. Even if he stays, he can't fight Uvogin and will drag Gon back. But, Gon, this is too risky. If you become the bait, Uvogin will kill you, Kurapika said worriedly. Kurapika knew how strong Uvogin was. Gon won't be able to fight him. Don't worry, Kurapika. Gon looked at him with confidence. Although he is powerful, I was raised in a forest, and no one can find me inside. Well, Gon, please be safe. Kurapika knew that Gon won't change his mind no matter what and could only pray he will be safe. He was slightly hopeful that Gon could get away from Uvogin. Cool, I will go out now and lead him away. You need to go as far as you can. Gon stood up and got ready. Kurapika lowered his head and said, I know, I won't run away. I will find Allan. He's your friend, so he will come to help you. I don't know where Allan is, but if you can't find him, then you should hide and wait till this phase ends. Don't worry, but Gon, please be careful and avoid going head-on against Uvogin. Gon nodded before rushing out from the bushes. When Uvogin saw Gon rushing out, he shouted, Little kid, so it was you. Uvogin was slightly stunned before shouting again, You took away my badge when that kid drugged me, right? Well, yeah, I did. Gon took out Uvogin's badge from his pocket and showed it to him. Damn it. You dared to take what is mine. Uvogin growled. Now, even if you give it back to me, I won't let you go. Who said anything about giving it back to you? I just wanted to let you know that I have it. After saying this, Gon provoked Uvogin by sticking his tongue out before running away into the forest. Uvogin was about to chase him, but suddenly, he stopped and glanced at the bushes. Don't think that you can hide there. I know that the kid is trying to lure me away, however, he succeeded in angering me. You can wait for me to come back and kill you after killing the kid. You just wait in fear, Kurta tribe's survivor. Uvogin directly started moving toward Gon at full speed. Kurapika clenched his fist and thought, if that's the case, I don't have to run. I must find Allan instead. Otherwise, Gon will die. Kurapika instantly moved, but to his surprise, he saw Allan appear in front of him. Allan was following Uvogin's aura and happened to stumble on Kurapika. Kurapika never thought it would be that easy to find Allan. Allan looked at Kurapika in surprise. Was Uvogin chasing Kurapika? However, he quickly denied that suspicion as Uvogin was going further away from here, which meant that he was chasing someone else. At this moment, Kurapika reacted and stepped forward. Hello, although we never met before, I'm Gon's friend, my name is Kurapika. Although he didn't expect Kurapika to take the initiative to greet him, Allan nodded politely, and replied, Well, I know you, Kurapika, you also should know my name, so I won't need to say anything. So, what happened? Allan asked. Gon is in danger. To help me get away, he led Uvogin away. Uvogin is now chasing him. I was about to look for you. Please help Gon. Allan frowned. So Gon was the one being chased by Uvogin? Allan couldn't feel Gon's presence because Uvogin's presence covered up the entire place. As Allan was ready to move to help Gon since he was in danger, the system gave him two choices. Thing. Please choose an option. 1. Agree to Kurapika's request and rescue Gon. Reward, 1 sword-style swordsmanship, novice. 2. Reject Kurapika's request. Ignore Gon's life. Reward, increase amount of Nen by 10,000 points. TN, either the author changed his mind about mental strength, or it is another attribute that can increase Nen. The second reward was more attractive to Allan, but he won't ignore Gon's life. Sacrificing a friend's life for the sake of profit isn't his thing. He isn't a scumbag. Allan immediately said, I'm going to find Gon now, don't worry. Thank you, Kurapika said gratefully. Don't thank me, Gon is my friend, and it's natural for me to save him if I can. and I made a promise to keep him safe." After saying this, Allan directly rushed forward in the direction of Uvoggen's aura. "I must save Gon. I promised Mito to keep him safe, and I won't forget that Gon was my first friend in this world and also my benefactor who took me in when I had nothing." Gon was rushing through the forest with all his might, using Nen to accelerate. However, Gon was underestimating Uvoggen, who soon overtook him quickly. Uvoggen directly punched Gon, who didn't dare face it head-on as he felt the power contained in that punch. Big bang impact. Boom. The punch destroyed the ground, forming a huge pit. The terrifying shockwave sent Gon skidding several meters away. Gon was slightly injured, but he was shocked by the difference in strength between them. "This is dangerous. If he strikes at me with that fist, I will die." Gon looked at Uvoggen solemnly. Gon maintained 10 to defend himself even slightly. Although he can't go head-on with Uvoggen, he can improve his power and speed, and defense when he wraps his body in Nen. No matter how strong his enemy is, he will not give up even if his chance to win is 0.01%. That's Gon. Seeing the Nen around Gon's body, Uvoggen was slightly surprised. "Oh? You can use Nen." Although he said this, Uvoggen was more surprised that Gon could avoid his big bang impact. "It seems that Allan taught you some tricks." Uvoggen narrowed his eyes and looked at Gon. He fought Allan a few times and was quite impressed by him, but Allan wasn't here, so he can kill Gon easily. "I will kill you, kid." Uvoggen directly rushed at Gon like a beast and punched. Gon couldn't block or resist at all, and in the next second, 3 ribs broke, his left arm broke, many bones all over his body fractured without any resistance. Gon fell on the ground, dying. "It looks like this is your last moment." Uvoggen looked at Gon with an evil smile as he cruelly held his hand high and prepared to end Gon's life with one last punch. Suddenly, a figure appeared and blocked Uvoggen's fist. "It's you?" Uvoggen's pupil shrunk as he saw Allan block his punch with one hand. Allan looked at Gon while ignoring Uvoggen and said, "Sorry, Gon. I'm late." However, Gon could no longer respond. He lost consciousness and was dying from all the broken bones and internal injuries. Allan frowned as icy cold killing intent emanated from him, making Uvoggen's expression change as he snorted. "He tried to provoke me by showing me my badge after he snatched it from me. So, you ignored the rules and wanted to kill him, right?" "Yes, if you didn't come, I would have killed him already." Uvoggen snorted as he was unhappy that Allan stopped him. "Very well. I will remember this." Allan raised his head gloomily and warned, "You will pay dearly for this. I guarantee this." "Huh, as if you have the ability." Uvoggen grinned. He wasn't afraid of Allan's threat. Instead, he felt excited. Allan knew that he can't fight right now, or else Gon will die. He looked at Uvoggen coldly before he said, "I don't have time to fight you now, so I will just take Gon away." "As if that's up to you." Uvoggen took action and punched Allan. Allan didn't want to fight, so he directly avoided Uvoggen's punch with flash steps before using it once again and punching Uvoggen in the face. This punch was filled with Allan's anger. Even Uvoggen, who is hailed for his defense, was sent flying back with a nosebleed. The anger behind that punch was evident. Allan was furious that Gon was in his current state. Allan ignored Uvoggen and directly took Gon and retreated as he knew that he can't deal with Uvoggen right now. If he fought against him out of anger, it would take a while, and Gon can't wait that long. If Gon isn't treated as soon as possible, he will die. That wasn't something Allan wanted to see. $. Whole. Allan escaped while holding Gon while Uvoggen roared. "Ding! You have successfully rescued Gon. Reward, 1 sword style, it are you, swordsmanship, novice." On the way, Allan heard the system's notification, and immediately, his mind was flooded with information concerning swordsmanship. However, he wasn't in the mood to pay attention to it. Gon's situation was getting worse, and if he doesn't receive help as soon as possible, he will die. If it weren't for his strong body, he would be already dead by now. Allan was thinking about how to help Gon. It was impossible to ask for the association's help because they won't help while the exam is taking place. Gon won't recover alone. His natural recovery was monstrous, but at this point, there is no way it can save him. The only option now is to find Leorio. Since Allan knew that Leorio was a medical student, he should stabilize Gon's injuries for now. As for why the association won't help, because casualties were usual during the test. Otherwise, if every candidate were injured to ask for help, the test would be meaningless. The only person that can help right now is Leorio. But finding him will take a while. Gon, I hope you can hold on. Allan looked at Gon as he accelerated. Gon? At this time, Kurapika, who secretly followed Allan because he was worried about Gon, spoke. When he saw the state Gon was in, anger flooded his heart. His eyes turned scarlet red as he knew that Uvogin was the one who did this to Gon. Allan didn't notice Kurapika's change as he asked, Kurapika, do you know where is Leorio? Kurapika didn't answer, and Allan couldn't help glancing at him only to be taken aback. Kurapika, your eyes? Seeing Kurapika's scarlet eyes, Allan was surprised as he didn't expect Kurapika to be that angry. Kurapika realized that his eyes were scarlet and said solemnly, I'm from the Kurtat tribe. When I'm emotional, mostly angry, my eyes will turn red. Allan knew about that already, but he didn't expect that Kurapika would be that angry for Gon. Kurapika clenched his fists as he blamed himself, Gon is like this now because of me. Allan said coldly, of course, you're slightly responsible, but you can't be blamed. After all, Gon's target is Uvogin, so he would have angered him, whether he helped you or not. Kurapika said with a voice filled with killing intent, I will go kill that bastard. Kurapika was so angry that his sanity was disappearing. Even though his power will increase when his eyes turn red, Allan knew that no matter how strong he is now, there is no way he can face Uvogin. Kurapika thought that he could kill Uvogin in his current state. Looking at the situation from a bystander's point of view, Allan is sure that Kurapika's current power is far from enough. His current chance of winning is less than 0.01%. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Prevent Kurapika from going after Uvogin to avenge Gon. Reward, increase Nen by 1000 points. 2. Let Kurapika go after Uvogin to avenge Gon. Reward, increase Nen by 800 points. 3. Talk to Kurapika and calm him down. Reward, increase Nen by 1500 points. Unexpectedly, the system decided to jump out now of all times. It seems like Kurapika is an essential character to the system. Allan immediately chose the third option. Wait, Kurapika. Seeing him moving away, Allan directly put a hand on his shoulder and stopped him. Don't stop me, Kurapika shouted in anger. Allan said coldly, I'll say this only once, if you go after, then it's your choice. What do you want to say? Even if in your current state, you will not be able to fight Uvogin, don't lose your sanity because of anger, or else, you'd die. If it weren't for me, Gon wouldn't have been in that state. All I can do is kill Uvogin and avenge Gon. Kurapika said with clenched fists. Of course, he knew that Uvogin was strong, but he felt guilty about Gon's current state, and he couldn't forgive himself. Allan patted his shoulder and said, I understand how you feel. Gon is also my friend, and seeing him like this hurt. But you can't just throw your life for nothing. Is your life worth nothing? Don't you still want to avenge your people? 1. Hearing the second sentence, Kurapika looked at Allan in surprise. How do you know that I want to avenge my family? Allan didn't expect Kurapika to notice this, but he already has an explanation. As far as I know, the Kurta tribe was annihilated a few years ago. Since you're a survivor of that massacre, it's only a matter of facts that you would seek revenge. Hearing this, Kurapika was silent. Indeed, he wanted revenge. He is living right now to seek revenge. If he died, his efforts over the years would be in vain. After thinking about this, Kurapika calmed down and said, I won't go after that guy now, but I won't forget this. I will definitively avenge Gon. Seeing his red eyes disappearing, Allan heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Don't worry about that, I will take care of you Vogin." Allan paused slightly and glanced at Kurapika, "But you will meet them sooner or later. Until then, you need to get stronger." Kurapika couldn't understand Allan's words and didn't know who he meant by them. After calming Kurapika, Allan received his 1,500 nen points, but he didn't pay attention. "Kurapika, you haven't answered me. Do you know where's Leorio?" Kurapika understood why Allan asked. Leorio is a medical student, so that he can help Gon. He immediately said, "The last time I saw him was on the southeast of the island. We parted ways yesterday afternoon. I think he should be still there." Allan nodded. "It's not too late. Let's go find him." 2 hours later, Allan and Kurapika finally met Leorio. Leorio didn't take his target's badge and was sitting down below a tree. He looked depressed as he looked at the sky. Seeing Allan appearing in front of him with Gon on his back, Leorio was taken aback. Why is he like that? There is no time to explain. "Leorio, you're a medical student. Please help Gon," Kurapika urged. "Put him down." "I will try everything I can," Leorio said with a solemn face. Allan put Gon on the ground, and instantly Leorio took his medkit and started treating him. A few minutes later, Leorio's forehead was full of sweat. Apart from a few scratches on Gon's face, there were no other injuries that Leorio didn't take a look at, but his rescue stopped as he clenched his fist. "What's the matter, Leorio?" Seeing him like this, Kurapika was a little puzzled, but he could guess the reason and hoped he was wrong. "I'm sorry I can't save him." After a moment, Leorio said. "Why?" Kurapika's face changed. "Gon's internal injuries are too severe. At least a dozen bones are broken, including hands, feet, ribs, spine. They're all out of place and broken a few times over. Even with a professional doctor, this kind of injury is almost impossible to heal. Moreover, Gon's internal organs are damaged, this no longer treatable." How could this be? Kurapika couldn't believe this. Leorio's words were equivalent to a death sentence for Gon. "Menet," Kurapika shouted as his eyes grew red once again. His killing intent radiated from him as he couldn't take it anymore. Leorio was taken aback as he said, "Kurapika, what's wrong with your eyes?" Kurapika didn't answer but said solemnly, "Take care of Gon. I'm going to kill you Vogin." At this moment, Allan, who was silent, said, "Wait a moment, I have a way to save Gon." Both Leorio and Kurapika looked at Allan in surprise as they heard his words. Leorio was stunned. He knew Gon's condition best, and there is no way he can be saved out here without any medical equipment, and even that would have its risk. How will Allan save Gon? And if he can save him, why did he wait till now to talk? Kurapika had the same thoughts as Leorio, but he knew that Allan wouldn't talk big like that without reason, so he asked, "You have a way to save Gon?" Allan nodded, "I do have a way, but I'm not sure if it will be effective. But since Gon has reached his current state, then I can only try it." "How sure are you that will work?" Kurapika asked. "In theory, 100%, but I didn't experiment on it before, so I'm not sure." "Is there a way that will 100% make Gon recover?" "If there is such a way, Leorio as a medical student would doubt his life." Allan glanced at the two of them and said, "May I ask you two to leave me alone with Gon for a bit?" Kurapika and Leorio nodded and temporarily left without saying anything. "Kurapika, do you think that Allan has a way to save Gon?" "Maybe." "You don't believe it, do you?" "Well, someone like you said that Gon couldn't be saved, and we are not in a hospital, so if Allan managed to save him, then he has an ability that transcends the boundaries of modern medicine." "That's hard to say," Leorio said. Allan sighed and looked at Gon. He took out a thumb-sized green bean from his storage ring. A senzu bean can heal and almost revive anyone that is still breathing. It's a cheat-like an item in the Dragon Ball world. Allan hesitated before reluctantly feeding Gon the senzu bean. He made his mind to save Gon, his first friend in this world, no matter what. Even if he doesn't get another senzu bean later, it will be worth it. If the senzu bean can save the life of his friend, then it served its purpose. No, saving Gon was more valuable than a senzu bean. Allan nervously looked at Gon, waiting for him to recover, then suddenly Gon's eyes opened as he sat up. Seeing him jumping up, Allan was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, "Great. It worked." Gon saw Allan and surprisedly asked, "Allan, why are you here?" Kurapika and Leorio heard Gon's voice and hurriedly ran back. When they saw him standing up, their eyes almost fell from surprise as if they were looking at a ghost. "Kurapika? Leorio? Why are you guys here?" Gon looked at them puzzledly, not sure what is happening. "Gon, you're alright?" What's wrong with me?" Gon scratched his head. Seeing Gon confused, Kurapika explained, "Gon, you went to bait Uvogin away, did you forget?" Gon remembered all of a sudden and was startled. "I was beaten to the ground. That Uvogin is too strong, I'm not his match at all. I felt all my bones break with a single punch from him." Gon thought for a bit, then said, "I thought I was dead." "If Allan didn't save you, you'd be dead," Kurapika said in a deep voice. "He saved you from dying." "Really?" "Yeah, Gon, even someone studying medicine like me couldn't save you, but he did," Leorio said. Gon knew that he almost died, and from what everyone is saying, Allan saved him. "Thank you, Allan." Although he said only 3 short words, Allan could feel his gratitude. Gon wasn't someone good at expressing himself, so just that thank you is enough for Allan. "You're welcome, Gon. After all, we are friends, right? And friends help each other." Allan smiled. Although the loss of a senzu bean made him feel pity, he wouldn't have forgiven himself if Gon died. He didn't regret using it to save Gon. Thing. Congratulations for triggering a hidden quest. Reach the highest level of friendship with Gon Freeses, the world's protagonist. Reward, Golden Treasure Chest X1. Allan was stunned for a moment. There were hidden quests in the system? Allan didn't save Gon expecting any reward, but unexpectedly, the system gave him a treasure chest. "System, do you want to open the golden treasure chest?" "Open it." Allan didn't hesitate at all. Thing. Opening golden treasure chest. Congratulations, you obtained 3 explosive tags. Allan didn't expect that at all. He thought that he'd get something like a devil fruit or a Saijo Owazamono sword, but the explosive tags were good as well. At this time, the knowledge about the power and their use of the explosive tags flowed in Allan's mind. The explosive tags were advanced seals that can detonate after some time from using them. The explosive tag produces a small-scale explosion close to a fire release jutsu. Allan needed to use half ram or tiger seal to detonate it. Allan put the 3 explosive tags into the storage ring and smiled. Those tags were equivalent to small bombs. No one would care about a piece of paper so that it will take them by surprise. Allan thought of the only person that would make him use those 3 tags right now. It was Uvogin. Even if Uvogin's body was as strong as steel, he wouldn't be safe from that explosion. At this time, Gon asked, "Allan, what are you thinking about? Why do I feel that you're thinking about something bad?" Kurapika and Leorio were also suspicious. Allan smiled and shook his head. "I was just thinking about something interesting." Kurapika curiously asked, "Allan, what was in your hands just now?" "Secret weapon." Allan smiled mysteriously without explaining further. "Secret weapon?" Although Kurapika and the others were curious, they didn't ask much. Allan patted Gon's shoulder and asked, "Gon, are you alright now?" "Well, I'm good." Gon nodded. "Really?" Allan smiled and punched Gon. Gon was taken aback, but he reacted quickly and blocked the fist. Allan nodded as he felt Gon's power. "Yes, it seems you fully recovered." It was a good thing that Gon recovered, but Kurapika and Leorio were puzzled. Leorio couldn't help asking Allan, "It's so weird, Allan. Please tell me, how did you heal Gon completely like that? It's incredible. Kurapika was curious as well but still didn't ask. Leorio, even if Allan tells you, you can't understand. Kurapika is right. Allan thought for a bit before continuing. I can understand that you doubt your medical knowledge, but rest assured, the method I used isn't by any means related to medicine. It's not related? Leorio was shocked before asking, is it a special ability or something? If it was, then I can understand why Gon recovered, Kurapika said. They were aware that treating Gon in that state was impossible. Is it an inability? Kurapika asked curiously. Allan shook his head and said, it wasn't Nen, but I used something. It can be called an elixir which can heal anyone as long as he is still breathing. Is there such a thing in the world? Leorio and Kurapika asked in a daze. What is it? Gon asked. A senzu bean, Allan said. Senzu bean? The three of them stared blankly as they never heard of such a thing before. Leorio was interested in it as he said, do you still that senzu bean? Can I take a look? Allan looked at him as if he was stupid and said, do you think such an elixir grows on trees? I only had one and used it to heal Gon. Leorio didn't expect the senzu bean to be so precious and looked at Allan apolitically without asking further. So that thing was Allan's trump card when your life is in danger, right? Allan shrugged, there is no such thing as a trump card. For me, it's enough that it saved Gon. Leorio and Kurapika fell silent when they heard this. Gon stood up and said, I'm sorry, Allan, you used something so precious to save me. Don't worry about it. What are friends if they don't save each other? Allan smiled. Kurapika and Leorio could only admire Allan from the bottom of their hearts. Gon already regarded Allan as his life savior. At this time, Kurapika asked, there are less than 3 hours till the exam ends. Have you collected your 6 points? Someone already took away my badge. Leorio was the first to speak with a gloomy expression. Who took it? Gon asked. It's Jitaraker. That guy is terrifying, Leorio sighed. So, it's him, huh? Allan's mouth raised as he didn't expect Illumi's target to be Leorio. Allan patted Leorio's shoulder and said, he is a top-notch assassin. You should be thankful that you're still alive. He only took away your badge. You can come back next year. What kind of assassin is he, Allan? Do you know him? Kurapika asked. I know his detail, Allan said. Who is he? Leorio asked. Allan cleared his throat and said, it's okay to tell you, he is Illumi, Killua's brother in disguise. Really? He's Killua's brother. Kurapika, Leorio, and Gon were surprised. They didn't look anything alike. Allan smiled, of course, it's not his true face. His face isn't scary. So, does Killua know that his brother is here? Gon asked. Allan shook his head, he doesn't. By the way, Allan, you already have enough points, right? I have enough points as I snatched Yuvalgin's badge. What about you, Kurapika? I have 6 points, Kurapika said. Leorio sighed, I envy you. It seems that I'm the only one that doesn't have 6 points. Don't be disappointed, Leorio. There is still a chance next year, Gon comforted. If you don't get stronger, next year you might not be able to pass as well, Kurapika warned. Leorio couldn't refute Kurapika's words. Jitaraker didn't do anything this time. He just made him hand over my badge and let me go. I may seem like a fool that handed over his badge when asked, but at that time, I was so scared that I couldn't even say a word of refusal. I couldn't control my body, Leorio said with lingering fear. You didn't learn Nen yet, so it's impossible to do anything against him, Allan said sharply. Illumi must have used his killing intent to make Leorio submit. Allan, what is that Nen you're talking about? Leorio said puzzledly. It's the first time he heard of the term. Yes, Allan, why don't you show us what it is? Kurapika asked curiously. Both of them want to get stronger, and it seemed that learning Nen could improve their stronger. Allan is not a selfish person. Since he can help Kurapika and Leorio, he would indeed help them. Moreover, it is useless to know Nen if you don't have the potential and hard work. Allan knew that Kurapika had monstrous talent and his specialist ability that manifest with his scarlet eyes, which makes him a master in all Nen types. With such talent, it wasn't a problem for him to learn Nen early. As for Leorio, his talent wasn't as good, but it's not bad either. In the election of the Zodiac, he relied on his technique of Nen Punch to defeat him. At this time, the system's notification made its appearance. Thing. Please select an option. 1. Teach Kurapika and Leorio Nen as a friend. Reward, increase Nen by 5,000 points. 2. Teach Kurapika and Leorio Nen as a teacher. At least make them teach them the basics of Nen. Reward, increase Nen by 12,000 points. Allan doesn't mind teaching Leorio and Kurapika, but judging from the reward, it's evident that being their teacher is better. Immediately Allan looked at Leorio and Kurapika and asked, Kurapika, Leorio, I have to ask. Do you want to learn Nen? Hearing this, Kurapika and Leorio were surprised. Kurapika said excitedly, could it be that you will teach us Nen? Allan shrugged and said, I will. This is great, Leorio shouted happily. However, you will have to listen to me. Allan smiled slightly. What do you mean? Kurapika frowned. Do you want teaching fees? Leorio scratched his head. Kurapika said hurriedly, if it's money, I can pay. Leorio also said, well, although I don't have much money, if I can become stronger, I'm willing to pay. Allan stopped the two of them, you misunderstood. I mean, I'm not teaching you as a friend, but as a teacher, do you get it? The two suddenly realized what he meant and respected him even more because of it. Indeed, they weren't close friends, so if Allan thought them Nen as friends won't feel sincere. But if he thought of them as a teacher, it would be more reasonable. Kurapika looked at Allan and said solemnly, you will teach me Nen, so it's normal for me to teach you. Leorio directly shouted, Allan-sensei, Leorio greets you. Allan was dumbfounded for a bit and said, okay, you don't have to do that, we are about the same age, so just call me by my name. No problem. Kurapika and Leorio nodded. Seeing that both of them accepted, Allan looked at Gon and said, then before teaching both of you, I need both of you to feel Nen. Gon use, 10. Okay. Allan knew that they would understand Nen only if they experienced it firsthand. Gon obeyed Allan's request and started using 10, and suddenly an astonishing amount of Nen was released from his body. Wow, this is amazing, Leorio shouted. Is this Nen? Kurapika muttered as he felt the aura radiating from Gon. It wasn't the first time they felt this, but since it was released by Gon without any purpose behind it, they could feel how powerful it was. Just as the two of them sighed, and a pressing aura quickly approached them. Both Kurapika and Gon knew who this aura belonged to, and they were terrified. Only Leorio didn't know it as he asked sluggishly, what's the matter, what is this? Be careful, that guy is here, Kurapika said solemnly. Uvogin is here. Gon frowned. Uvogin? Leorio was taken aback before his face changed, is it the guy that almost killed Gon? They fought against Uvogin and could perceive his aura. Seeing Gon and Kurapika nervous, Leorio suggested, I think we should run away. Leorio, you can go first. I'm staying to settle the account, Kurapika said coldly. He never forgot the fact that Uvogin almost killed Gon to save him. If Allan weren't here, Gon would have died. In other words, Uvogin was an enemy who almost killed his friend. Kurapika decided not to run away. I want to stay too, Gon said. You too, Leorio sighed helplessly before firmly announcing, since both of you are staying, I won't leave. Hey, you three. Seeing the three stupid guys and their bromance, Allan was speechless. Relax, will you? I'm here. Calm down. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio finally remembered that Allan was with them. All of them panicked and totally forgot about Allan due to Uvogin's aura. As soon as Allan spoke, The three of them relaxed a bit and felt relieved. There is no doubt that Allan was the strongest out of the three of them. He is the only one who can fight Uvogin. Kurapika instantly said, "Let's put learning Nen aside, for now, Allan. What are we going to do? What else can we do? We can only face danger head-on." Allan shrugged and said, "You won't die as long as I'm here." Hearing such reassuring words made the three of them relax a lot. However, Uvogin's aura was getting closer, and their hearts tightened again. Allan knew that it's impossible to make them relax with such a foe in front of them. Ding. Please make a choice. Allan wasn't surprised as he expected something like this from his understanding of the system. Whenever an original character encounters an event, he would have to make a choice. 1. Protect Gon and the others and defeat or behead Uvogin. Reward, swordsmanship rhythm of all things. The ability to cut steel. 2. Lead Gon and the others away and avoid fighting Uvogin. Reward, Ryo Wazamono sword. The options were within Allan's expectation, and both rewards were good, but it paled in comparison to the rhythm of all things. Because he already had a great weapon, which is Shusui. So, any other weapon didn't pick his interest currently. If he defeats Uvogin this time, he will get rhythm of all things and advance his swordsmanship, which he just got as well. If he uses advanced swordsmanship with Shusui, the result will be devastating. In this world, using Nen to defend was expected, and the stronger the Nen of the user, the stronger his defense will get. For example, if someone is defending using Kin and concentrates around 10,000 Nen points into his defense, to break that defense, the attacker's power needs to exceed 10,000 Nen point. The bigger the gap between two fighters, the smaller the chance for the weakest to win and vice versa. If we want to calculate the amount of Nen Uvogin had, we can assume that it reached 90,000 points, and if he was pushed beyond his limit, he could break 100,000 points easily. As for Allan, he currently had 70,000 points, which means the gap between their Nen is about 20,000 points. Allan wasn't worried because, in addition to Nen, he had other techniques, such as moonwalk, flash steps, leaf taijutsu style, etc. Those techniques didn't need Nen, as they relied on stamina. Allan now had two methods to break through Uvogin's defense. The first one is the explosive tags. The explosive tags problem is that they need about a second to detonate, which Uvogin can use to avoid the blast. However, Allan knew that Uvogin was too confident in his defense to be concerned about it. The second thing is Shusui. With that sword, Allan was confident in breaking through Uvogin's defense. After all, it isn't an ordinary sword. It's rumored that Ryoma used Shusui to kill a dragon. Allan believed that this sword could kill Uvogin. However, that is if he can use it. The Mato, famous swords, need corresponding strength to show their powers. After getting one sword-style swordsmanship, novice, Allan can now swing a sword. He is now a beginner swordsman. Allan took out Shusui from his storage ring and held it in his hands. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio looked at Allan in surprise as the presence around him changed. "Allan, what with that sword?" Kurapika asked. "It's a black sword." He could feel that Shusui wasn't normal. He could feel something inside it. Gon, who had the most honed instinct between them, said, "Allan, that sword seems mighty." Leorio interjected, "Yes, it has a black blade and some unique pattern on it." Allan said in a deep, inspiring voice, "This black sword is Shusui. It once killed a dragon. I will use it later to kill Uvogin, as it should be enough to break his defense." The three were surprised hearing about the dragon as Gon exclaimed, "It killed a dragon. That's so cool." Kurapika looked at the sword again before saying, "Indeed, this sword looks sharp. I think it should be fine." Allan nodded. He stayed silent for a bit, then said, "I got a plan that will help us get rid of that guy quickly. I will hide there, and you three deal with him as best as you could and get his attention. When that opportunity arises, I will behead him from behind." "I'm in," Gon said, and the others nodded. They didn't find anything wrong with his proposal. Soon after, Allan hid as Uvogin approached. Finally, he fell from the sky with a boom as he cracked the ground. As the dust dispersed, Uvogin's figure appeared to all of them. He relied on his senses to find them. At first, he couldn't pinpoint their direction, but as soon as Gon used 10, he sensed him and came here as fast as possible. Ha 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 ha, kids, let's see how you will run this time. Uvogin cracked his neck as grinned furiously. Kurapika said coldly, we won't be running away. Yes, we aren't running away, Gon exclaimed loudly. Me too, I'm with them, Leorio shouted boldly. However, he was almost shivering from fear as he thought, what a terrifying guy, his nen is astonishing. It's several times greater than Gon's. Ha 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 ha, you just made this easier. Uvogin snorted as he waved his hand. Suddenly, a strong wind rushed toward them, which made them even more fearful. Just a wave of his hand generated such a strong wind. The only thought in their heads currently was, Uvogin was extremely strong. It's definitively not an opponent they could fight. Gon was doing his best as he resisted Uvogin's oppressing aura while Kurapika was slightly worse, but even so, he couldn't somehow resist it. Leorio almost couldn't breathe. He was the most ordinary of the three, after all. Hey, let's see how long you can hold for. Uvogin wasn't planning on killing them directly. Instead, he wanted to play around with them first. He wanted to torture the three of them first, before killing them. As Uvogin released his aura, even more, the pressure got stronger by the second. Gon made a move and stood in front of Kurapika and Leorio before releasing his aura to protect them. Oh? Not bad, kid. Uvogin looked at Gon and sneered, kid, you are lucky you didn't die previously, but who will rescue you now? As he said this, Uvogin's doubts were aroused. Because Gon was severely injured previously, but nowhere is he standing without any injury after 1 hour. This made him puzzled and curious at the same time. Of course, he knew that Allan was related to this. However, Allan wasn't here. He didn't rule out that Allan was using Zetsu in hiding right now. His gaze landed on Leorio, and as soon as he saw him holding a medicine box, he assumed that he was the one who saved Gon, which made him angry. Suddenly, Uvogin raised his fist and violently attacked Leorio. This is bad. Gon and Kurapika knew that Uvogin wanted to attack Leorio, and it was too late to dodge, so they could only stand in front of Leorio and block this punch for him. Leorio was in the back, with Kurapika in the middle and Gon in the front. Gon released all of his nen to defend against Uvogin's punch, while Kurapika held Gon as hard as possible to absorb the impact as best as he could. As soon as the punch was released, the three of them flew in the air. Simultaneously, a figure suddenly appeared from behind and launched an attack at lightning speed. One sword style, Itario, Dragon Fangs, Ryunokiba. Allan appeared like a ghost behind Uvogin while swinging Shusui at full force toward Uvogin's head. Uvogin's face changed as he felt the crisis. It was too late to avoid, and all he could do was turn around and block with his hand awkwardly. The black sword flashed with cold light and passed through Uvogin's block. Instead of his head, his hand, which he raised to defend, flew in the air. Blood splashed on the ground. His entire arm was sliced off. The cut was smooth without any resistance at all. It wasn't a simple thing to do against someone with a tough body like Uvogin. If Allan didn't try his best to wield Shusui when trying to slice Uvogin's head off, the power behind it wouldn't be so drastic. After all, Allan was a novice in swordsmanship. At this moment, Allan was panting as he put most of his power behind that attack. It wasn't a simple matter to cut a monster like Uvogin after all. Uvogin was stunned as he stared at his left arm on the ground as if he couldn't believe it. Atilda. Uvogin's roar resounded across the island. It wasn't a roar of pain due to his chopped-off arm, but it was a roar of anger. I'm going to kill you. Uvogin endured the pain as he rushed toward Allan with a big bang impact. Allan wasn't fully ready to resist Uvogin's punch after his last attack, so he immediately flash-stepped away without any hesitation. Boom. The ground was torn apart as if a meteor just hit the ground, leaving behind a large pit. As the dust dispersed, Uvogin stood in the middle of the crater, breathing heavily. His blood gushed out harder after using Big Bang Impact. But what drove him crazy is that in his anger, he used Big Bang Impact, which destroyed his just cut-off arm. If that arm were still intact, he would have been able to reattach it easily, but now, there is no way for him to regain his arm again. At this moment, he became a one-armed man. This caused his anger to soar as he shouted at Allan, "You coward! You dare attack from behind!" If Allan didn't attack him from behind like that, he wouldn't have lost his arm. Although he guessed that Allan might be hiding from the start, he didn't expect him to attack as soon he attacked Gon and the others. Moreover, he didn't expect that Allan would be able to cut off his arm with a single slash. At this moment, Uvogin looked at the sword in Allan's hand. He could feel that it wasn't an ordinary sword. Allan looked at Uvogin without flinching. Although he cut off the latter's arm, his original intention was killing him with one blow. What a pity that attack should have killed him. However, without his left hand, his power would drop significantly. Right now, Allan didn't fear him. If they continue fighting, Uvogin will die. Remember this well, the sword that will kill you is called Shusui. Allan waved Shusui toward Uvogin, but the latter never admits defeat as he angrily shouted, "You are 100 years too young to kill me." Uvogin's nen erupted from his body as he stopped the bleeding from his left shoulder. Perhaps due to Shusui slicing off his hand, Uvogin became fearful of that sword. He didn't dare to block it directly. Instead, he avoided it. "This is the first time you evaded. Why? Are you scared? Aren't you proud of your strong body?" Allan taunted, and Uvogin became furious. He was arrogant. He couldn't bear Allan's ridicule. Allan waved his sword again, and this time, Uvogin punched the sword instead of evading it. His fist is the strongest part of his body, after all. It was the only thing he was sure that wouldn't get injured by that sword. The fight escalated inside the forest as shockwaves after shockwaves generated with every collision. Even so, Allan managed to wound him several times. Uvogin's combat efficiency dropped by a lot without his hand, even though his aura was still the same. Relying on his right arm alone wasn't enough to block Shusui. Slash. 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 Allan's attacks became faster as he danced around with Shusui. Each slash will make his sword heavier and faster. Although he can't display Shusui's power with beginner swordsmanship, he can at least wield the sword. Uvogin felt more pressure as time passed. He couldn't deal with Allan, who is becoming faster and stronger with each slash. The battle was at its climax. Sparks flew in the air due to a sword and a fist colliding. Suddenly, Allan flickered to Uvogin's side and slashed Uvogin from the top. The sword slashed across Uvogin's body, making another massive wound in the already scarred figure. "Damn it," Uvogin roared as cold sweat covered his forehead. Although he defended all dangerous attacks with Ken, the attacks still passed through his defense. The wounds weren't deep, but they are painful. His best mean of defense is his right hand, but that hand is also his strongest mean of attack. That's why each time he attacks, his would be wide open. Uvogin's body was covered in wounds, and he bled. However, he refused to lose. Even if he is seriously wounded, he will fight till the end. Big Bang Impact. This time, Uvogin didn't use the normal Big Bang Impact. Instead, he concentrated Nen on his fist, then shot it out toward Allan like a cannon. Allan's face changed slightly as he didn't expect a ranged attack from Uvogin. Big Bang Impact was a strong area of effect attack, but this cannon was condensed. It's indeed strong. If Allan was hit by it, he would be disabled if not die. Allan readied his sword. He concentrated Nen into the blade with Shu to raise its power before facing the Nen cannon Uvogin blasted at him. As the blast hit Shusui, an incredible impact resounded, which sent Allan flying into the air. That attack didn't even nick Shusui. If it were an ordinary sword, it would have been broken. worthy of your fame, Shusui. Allan got up with a slight injury. However, it wasn't much as it didn't affect his power. Allan narrowed his eyes and looked at Uvogin. Using everything you have to destroy Shusui was stupid, Allan sneered. Damn it. Uvogin has never been looked down upon like this in his life before. Uvogin gained a bit of momentum after that punch, which made him take that opportunity to attack once again. Allan held Shusui in his right hand while he raised his left hand to make an ice wall in front of him. Boom. The ice shattered as Uvogin passed through the wall with his fists moving forward toward Allan. However, to his surprise, Allan already disappeared from behind the ice wall, which caused Uvogin to frown. He suddenly felt his aura from behind, and without thinking, he sent another fist out. The sword was faster than Uvogin's fist as half a meter wound appeared across Uvogin's chest. Uvogin roared in pain. Anyone 10 kilometers away would be able to hear this roar. Allan couldn't defend against a sound attack, so he felt slightly dizzy as his mind buzzed. Even so, Uvogin couldn't take advantage of Allan's current state because he was severely injured right now. Blood gushed out of his chest, and no matter how fast he heals, there is no way to recover from that now. Moreover, even a slight movement would cause him to feel pain all over his body. Allan recovered from the sound attack and said, "This time, you're dead." Allan held Shusui and rushed towards Uvogin in an all-out attack. Uvogin felt Allan rushing toward him and immediately tried to fight back, but he was no longer Allan's opponent. After several minutes after attacking and defending, Uvogin could no longer take it. His hand was cut off. His body was full of wounds, and blood gushed all over the place. He knelt on the ground as his injuries restricted his movement. Allan was panting heavily as he held Shusui and stood in front of Uvogin with a cold expression. "I won, and I will kill you now." "Damn it. Is this the end?" Uvogin raised his head weakly. He can't fight anymore. Uvogin's glare was oozing with hatred as Allan readied himself to kill. "Die," Allan said and directly dropped his sword. Suddenly, a figure appeared out of nowhere, blocking Allan's sword. Allan's pupil shrunk slightly as his expression changed. The person in front of him was Krullo. When Allan was still looking at Krullo in surprise, Pakunoda shot several bullets at him. Allan had to retreat and defend using Shusui. At this time, he looked around to look at Pakunoda before frowning. "It's troublesome now," Allan said. Uvogin was just one strike away from death, but Krullo had to appear. Although he wanted to retort about Krullo's perfect timing, he decided to stay silent. Uvogin sighed in relief as he saw Krullo and said, "Chief, it's about time you got here." Krullo said earnestly, "I heard your scream, so I came as fast as I could." Uvogin replied, "Sorry, Chief, if you didn't rush here, I might have been dead." Seeing Uvogin covered in blood, Krullo said, "Although I don't know why you went after Allan again, it looks like you've lost." Although he wasn't convinced, Uvogin didn't refute Krullo's words. It was a fact that he lost this time. Pakunoda glanced at him and said, "By the way, you look the worst I've seen you so far. I didn't expect you will be forced to such a state. Even your left hand was cut off. It looks like it will be hard for you to remain in your position now." Hearing Pakunoda's words, Uvogin angrily roared, "Damn it! If he didn't sneak up on me, I would have killed him." Krullo said coldly, "It doesn't matter if he did or not. What matters is that he almost managed to kill you. That shows his power." "I'm not convinced," Uvogin grunted. He always believed that no one could hurt him, and he is unwilling to accept that Allan could defeat him without stupid tricks. "It's your business if you don't want to be convinced. Without me here, you would have died," Krullo said indifferently, making Uvogin speechless. Krullo glanced at Allan thoughtfully and said, "Let's leave it at that. I will deal with this now." "Okay." Although he was unwilling, Uvogin knew very well that he was unable to fight Allan now. Allan stared at Krullo. From what he could tell from their conversation, he might have to fight Krullo next. Allan knew that Krullo could steal other people's abilities, and he should have a big arsenal of skills already in his small book. Allan couldn't think of a strategy against someone like Krilo because he didn't know what kind of ability the latter would use. After staring at each other for a long time, Krilo didn't seem too eager to fight, which made Allan confused as he asked, "What do you want?" "I suggest that we stop here," Krilo responded. "What?" Allan didn't expect this at all. He knew that Krilo wouldn't joke like this, and from his calm face, he isn't lying. Krilo said coldly, "Allan, if you want to continue this, I will accompany you to the end." This wasn't a threat but a warning. Allan frowned and said nothing. He used most of his strength to fight against Uvogin, and now he can't fight against Krilo at all. "I almost killed your companion, and you to stop? What are you thinking about?" Allan asked. "It is simple, you and Uvogin were already fighting from the start, so if I intervene, it will only make things troublesome." Allan knew that this wasn't all there is to it. That kind of reason didn't fit with Krilo's character. There must be something else here. Sure enough, what Krilo said next cleared Allan's doubt. "I said this before, I admire your power very much, and I hope you can consider joining the Gene Ryodan." Allan sneered. It turned out he wanted to win him over. "I'll still answer the same way as before. Currently, I have no reason to join you." Allan refused. "It's okay. I believe you will change your mind in the future." Krilo smiled. Allan only said that he had no reason to join them, which means he didn't altogether refuse to join them. That alone made Krilo satisfied. "Then let's put an end to this grudge between you and Uvogin. I don't know what you think about this, but if you insist on killing him, then I, as the leader of the Gene Ryodan, can only fight back, and this will escalate this matter. It will be something between you and the whole Gene Ryodan." Allan frowned deeply as he was well aware of this. However, if he let Uvogin go this time, he will cause trouble again in the future. Just when Allan was struggling to make a choice, the system, like always, made its appearance. 1. Kill Krilo. Reward, Zanpakuto, Senbenzakura Kagyoshi. 2. Give Krilo some face and stop the matter here. Reward, increase Nen by 3000 Nen points. Although the first reward was the best out of everything he got, it was also an impossible task. With his current power, it is impossible to kill Krilo. Therefore, he can only pick the second option. Allan suddenly said, "Okay, you can take him away, and the matter will end here. However, if he comes looking for trouble again in the future, I won't be talking about it even if you intervene." Krilo nodded. He wasn't surprised by what Allan said. Thing. Nen has increased by 3000 points. In an instant, Allan felt his net increase. It may not be a lot, but it was better than nothing. At this time, the problem is resolved, but Uvogin can't accept this. "Chief, you don't need to help me in the future, but I will never leave that guy alive. When I recover, I will go settle this account with him," Uvogin said while glaring at Allan. Krilo replied, "If you go against him, you will take full responsibility for your actions. Whether you kill him or die, the Gene Ryodan won't help you anymore. I know, this a personal grudge between us, and I won't involve the organization in my conflicts." Uvogin promised that he didn't intend to rely on the Ryodan's power to fight Allan. His pride won't allow it. He will win with his power. Seeing Uvogin already deciding on this, Krilo said, "Since you have decided, then, next time both of you fight, I won't interfere." Uvogin nodded. Krilo looked at Pakunoda and said, "Pakunoda, you take Uvogin back." "What about you, Chief?" Pakunoda asked. Krilo said, "I have enough points to pass this test so that I will go to the 4th phase of the exam. I think the next phase is the final one. So, when I pass that one, I will take the hunter license." Pakunoda nodded, "Sorry, Chief. Then I will go ahead then." After saying this, Pakunoda helped Uvogin, who is almost crippled, and left. Allan watched the situation from the side and asked, "Krilo, you don't intend to interfere in my next fight against Uvogin?" Krilo then said, "I said that already, Allan. I appreciate you so that I won't interfere." Allan said, In other words, when Uvogin recovers, he will come to fight me, and even if I kill him, you won't seek revenge, is that it? Kurlo nodded. Yes, I just helped Uvogin for the last time. I don't plan on doing so in the future. If you kill him or if he kills you, I won't do anything about it, nor will the spiders. I'm relieved then. Allan sneered. You should prepare a large coffin for him then, because next time, he will definitively die. Kurlo smiled. I will prepare, however, I don't know for who the coffin will be. Humph, you can rest assured that I won't be me, Allan sneered. Thing. You defeated Uvogin. Reward, swordsmanship, rhythm of all things. As soon as Kurlo left, the system gave Allan his reward. Allan was stunned for a moment as the reward was delayed for some reason. He didn't kill Uvogin, and the reward was issued, which made him think that he failed. But now he got the reward because he defeated Uvogin, and that meant he has the power to kill him. So I got the reward after all, Allan muttered as he focused on his reward. This reward was different from any reward he got previously, as this one was information about a skill or a materialistic object. It is something equivalent to enlightenment. The rhythm of all things gives the ability to cut steel to a swordsman. Allan could feel something different when he held Shusui in his hand, as if the sword was an extension of his arm. Shusui was an excellent weapon with the ability to cut steel, but not anyone can have the ability to use it. An ordinary person holding Shusui wouldn't be able to use it at all. It may even kill him. But for a swordsman, Shusui can cut anything in the world. To be able to use it, there is a qualification that you need to meet, which is the rhythm of all things. Listening to the sound of all things and decide which item to cut and which to leave intact. When Allan cut off Uvogin's hand, he used every bit of his power to do so, but the current Allan can be more relaxed doing the same feat. Next time, Allan was determined to kill Uvogin, no matter who wants to stop him. Allan believed that the real reason for the system to give him the rhythm of all things is to kill Uvogin. In the Hunter x Hunter world, Nobunaga was the only real swordsman. And he's an expert in quick draw, and Allan did not doubt that Nobunaga is powerful. He can most likely cut steel easily. As far as he knows, only Nobunaga can compete with him in swordsmanship, and Allan knows that Uvogin and Nobunaga were best friends, and there is no way he would let the matter rest when he finds Uvogin missing a hand. When the two of them fight together, they become stronger, and Allan won't cope with them. I must prepare for when both of them come seeking revenge. Allan wasn't confident that he could fight both of them with his current strength. He needs a lot of improvement to deal with them, or else he will surely die. With this sword, I will kill all my enemies and protect whoever I want to protect. Allan looked at Shusui in his hand and made up his mind. Now that I think about it, I didn't check on Gon and the others. They didn't die, right? Allan knew that Uvogin's punch most likely injured them, and Gon should be the most injured out of them because he was the one blocking most of the force. Allan could only pray that they were all right, and especially Gon. Otherwise, he can't help him because he didn't have the Senzu bean this time. Allan started searching for them and soon sensed them in a nearby bush. If there is a presence, it means they are alive. This made Allan relieved. As long as they are alive, then they could recover. The three of them won't be able to fight for some time. Leorio didn't wake up yet, while Kurapika and Gon started to regain their consciousness, but they couldn't stand up. "Allan, are you okay?" Gon asked weakly. Allan said softly, "Don't worry about me, Gon, you look pretty battered." Gon said, "My arms are fractured, and I probably won't be able to move normally for a while." Kurapika said, "My left hand is broken along with 2 ribs. Leorio's situation is more serious." Allan frowned. They will have problems when they participate in the next phase. After a while, Allan relaxed. After all, they weren't severely injured, which is good. Allan looked at the sun setting and knew that the test is about to end. He directly said, "Let's go back to the starting point. There's 1 hour left, and most examinees with enough points should have gathered there already." Gon and Kurapika nodded before standing up and helping each other move forward, looking like brothers. Leorio was unconscious, so Allan had to carry him on his shoulder. As soon as the sun went down, an announcement echoed all over the island: the fourth phase of the Hunter exam has come to an end. Please return to the starting point as soon as possible. Everyone has an hour to return, and whoever doesn't will be eliminated. Please note that the test has ended, and no one is allowed to snatch someone else's badge. If such a thing were detected, the candidate would be immediately eliminated and banned from participating again for 10 years. Allan and the others finally reached the starting point after half an hour, where an airship lightened the area. Allan glanced around. He knew all of the ones here. They were Hisoka, Illumi, Krillo, Hanzo, Killua, Pakal, and Badoro. Half an hour later, the 11 candidates who passed boarded the Hunter Association's airship and moved toward the next location. The other candidates who didn't pass departed on a boat belonging to the Hunter Association. And like this, the fourth phase of the Hunter exam came to an end. On the airship, all the candidates that passed the last phase of the exam had a week of rest. Allan sat in his room, resting with closed eyes as he was quite tired after his fight with Uvogin. But on the bright side, his power increased again, and all he needed to do is get used to his improvement before the next phase starts. The next phase is about duels between the candidates, and although he was confident to pass, 3 people could pose a threat to him, consisting of Hisoka, Krillo, and Illumi. If he was to fight one of them, he needs to fight to the best of his ability. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door to his room. "You can enter. The door is unlocked," Allan said softly. Allan didn't drop his guard at all, even while resting, which is why he could tell that someone was behind the door before they knocked. Of course, he knew it was Gon and the others, which is why he replied softly. As soon as the door opened, Gon, Killua, and Kurapika entered the room. "How are your injuries?" Allan looked at them and asked. He didn't just ask Gon, but Kurapika and Killua as well. The 3 of them were bandaged, and Gon looked like a mummy. It was funny. Of the 3, Killua should be the least injured. After him comes Kurapika. Gon comes last as the ones who received Uvogin's punch head-on. Gon looked at the bandage and said, "The doctor who just treated me said that it would take at least 6 to 8 months for me to recover completely. So he advised me to drop from the exam this time." Allan raised his brows and said, "And you refused, right?" "Yeah." Gon nodded with determination oozing through his eyes. Allan sighed, "I also know that you won't give up that easily. But, in the next test, it will be hard for you to pass." Gon grinned, "It's okay. I'm only interested in participating. Even if I lose, I can come back next year anyway." Allan was surprised and pleased by Gon's optimism. As for his injuries, Allan wasn't worried, because unlike the doctor, he knew that Gon would be fully recovered in a month or 2. At this time, Kurapika asked, "Allan, what happened to Uvogin? Did you get rid of him?" Allan shook his head and said, "It's a pity, he got away at the end." After talking about the battle, Kurapika replied seriously, "Although you defeated him and he got away with serious injuries, he will most likely come back for revenge in the future." "I know, so next time we meet, one of us will die." Allan raised his head as his eyes flashed coldly. Kurapika stayed silent for a bit before he said, "I will help you then. So, until then, I hope you can teach me how to use Nen." Allan gave him a nice guy pose and said, "Don't worry, however, considering that Leorio isn't here, we have to wait till the exam ends before I can give you formal lessons." Kurapika nodded, "Okay, I will notify Leorio." Allan smiled and said, "With your talents, it won't be that hard to learn, Nen." Kurapika was happy with Allan's reassurance. "What are you talking about, Allan? Are you going to teach Kurapika and Leorio Nen?" Killua couldn't help asking. Seeing Allan nodding, Killua hesitated for a bit before he asked in a pleading tone, "In that case, can you please teach me as well?" This came as a shock to Allan as he didn't expect Killua to almost beg him like this. After all, Killua was from the Zoldyck family, the masters of assassination and nen masters almost unrivaled in the world. At this moment, Killua let go of his arrogance and showed how much he valued nen training. Allan wanted to tell both Kurapika and Killua that anyone is willing to teach both of them, even if he doesn't. After all, most nen masters should be able to see the potential in these two. However, he didn't want to refuse them. At this time, the system gave him two options. 1. Agree to Killua's request and teach him nen. Reward, rare treasure chest X1. 2. Tactfully refuse Killua's request and ask him to find another teacher. Reward, increase nen by 3,000 points. Allan immediately picked the first option. At this time, Killua saw Allan being thoughtful and concluded that Allan didn't want to teach him, which felt like a heavy blow. However, in the next second, Allan raised his head, patted Killua's shoulder, and said, "Okay, I will teach you." Killua was happy, and that became apparent when he showed a pure smile. As he said to Kurapika, Allan asked Killua to wait after the hunter exam before teaching him. Killua had no objection as he gave him a thumb up. To Allan's disappointment, the system didn't reward him immediately. Well, it said that I need to teach him after accepting his request after all. There is no free lunch in this world. However, Allan suddenly remembered the treasure chest he is yet to open. He was so busy with the exam that he almost forgot about it. He directly reached to the system with his thoughts and asked it to open the treasure chest. Ding. You opened a mysterious treasure chest and obtained demonic illusion, tree-binding death. TN, the genjutsu Kurenai used against Itachi, 10. Instantly, Allan's mind received all the information concerning the demonic illusion, tree-binding death. Allan couldn't hide his surprise. Surprisingly, the chest gave me a genjutsu. This was a handy technique. Genjutsu is based on the 5 senses of the target, and there is almost no one in Hunter x Hunter world that can detect a genjutsu or dispel one. Although this skill doesn't cause any physical damage, it's useful to paralyze the target and finish him instantly. It's somewhat a good technique for torturing as well. At this moment, an announcement was made in the airship: whoever hears his badge number, please proceed to meet President Netero. Gon and the others were taken aback as they didn't expect President Netero to interview them in person. Allan instantly confirmed that the next phase was still the same when he heard the announcement. The first person they called in was Killua, the holder of the number 99 badge. Killua shrugged before he said, "Well, I go first." After entering the room, Killua saw Netero sitting inside. It turned out the president is this bald old man. Killua thought. He, although I'm a bald old man, I'm still very energetic, Netero said with a smile as if he guessed what Killua's thoughts. Killua was startled as he vowed to never look down on this old man again. Netero then said, "Killua, I will ask you a few questions, and you have to answer them truthfully." Killua nodded. "First, I want to ask you why you want to be a hunter? And what are you going to do after becoming one?" Killua pretended to think before he said, "I heard someone say that this profession was the greatest in the world, so I wanted to try becoming a professional hunter. As for what I will do after becoming one, I will let my family know that I'm good on my own, and I don't need to rely on them anymore." Netero smiled, so that's how it is." Killua smiled. He was feeling slightly guilty for lying to the old man. Couldn't he see that I was lying? Netero didn't care as he asked, "Then, let me ask you the second question. Of the remaining candidates, who do you think is the best? Who is the most dangerous, and who is the most powerful?" Killua became speechless for a while before he answered, "Well, the most outstanding person from the people I have contact with is undoubtedly candidate number 123, Allan. The people who are dangerous are candidates number 44, Hisoka, number 301, Jitarakar. And I don't know who is the strongest. Allan, Hisoka, Krullo, and Jitarakar are very strong, but I don't know who is the strongest. But I think it can be Allan cause he defeated candidate number 100, Uvagan." Upon hearing this, Netero laughed. "I saw that battle on camera. It was indeed a good battle. Killua nodded and asked, "Are there any other questions?" Netero said, "The last question. Killua, who do you want to fight the most? Who do you fight the least?" Killua put his hand on the back of his head and said, "There is no one who I want to fight, as if have no interest in duels. As for the who I don't want to fight, there are at least 4, because it will cause a headache as I can't picture myself winning against them. But the person I don't want to fight is Allan, since he will be my teacher and train me in Nen." Netero laughed again. "I understand, you can go back now." Killua asked, "Is this interview related to the next test?" Netero smiled without answering. "Strange old man," Killua muttered before he got up and left. After he left, Netero took out a notebook and ranked the candidates according to Killua's view, so he put Allan first, then Hisoka, Jitarakar, and Kurlo together. He didn't rank the others yet as he still needed more information. 15 minutes after Killua left, Netero called the next person in. This time it was Hanzo. "Killua, what did the president ask you?" Kurapika asked as Killua returned to Allan's room. "It's nothing, just some ordinary questions, like the purpose of your participation, who do you want to fight, and who you don't want to fight." Gon and Kurapika started guessing how Netero will arrange the next test, while Allan was already 100% sure that the next test will be duels. What he was curious about is how will they be arranged. After a while, Kurapika was called in, and one by one, they were called in by Netero. Gon, Hisoka, Pakal, Kurlo, Badoro, Jitarakar, and finally, Allan's turn. After Allan walked into the room, he saw Netero sitting in his seat. As he glanced at him, he wore the same clothes from the show and looked the same as well. "Hello, President Netero." Allan took the initiative to greet Netero. Please, sit down, my boy, Allan," Netero said politely. After sitting down, Netero repeated the question he asked all the other candidates to Allan. "Allan, why do you want to be a hunter? And what will you do after becoming one? Thing. Make a choice." 1. Answer Netero's question honestly and arouse his curiosity. Reward, Paramecia devil fruit, Gamu Gamu no Mi, rubber fruit. 2. Just avoid answering Netero's question. Reward, increase Nen by 3000 points. At first, Allan wanted to avoid answering Netero's question, but he could only answer honestly, seeing the rubber fruit. Even though he didn't like that devil fruit, its value is astronomical. Allan thought seriously before answering the question, as he wanted the reward and had to answer honestly. But after a while, he honestly couldn't find any reason for becoming a hunter. In the beginning, he accompanied Gon because of the system's choice, but now, he was interested in becoming a hunter. As for what to do after getting the license, he will probably just get a job related to hunters. So after a while, he looked at Netero with a serious face and said, "Well, my reason for joining the hunter exam is mostly due to curiosity. After becoming a hunter, I will probably take some hunter-related work. Maybe when I get bored or tired, I will retire." Interest? That's quite the interest. You seem to be a willful guy. Netero was genuinely surprised by Allan's answer. Allan shrugged. "I think when you were young, Mr. President, you were quite the willful guy as well." Hearing this, Netero was stunned for a moment before burst out laughing. "Oh, you are right about that. I caused a lot of headaches to people when I was young." Allan believed that Netero was a very headstrong guy when he was young. He was the world's strongest, or at least that's what most people knew nowadays. Referring to Mahis Olvik as the strongest character in Hunter x Hunter. Netero then asked his second question, "Allan, among the 9 remaining candidates, who do you want to fight with the most and who do you want to avoid?" Allan thought for a bit, then answered, "There is no one I want to fight. As for who I want to avoid, it should be Gon. He is half a brother to me." Allan honestly answered. After all, he didn't want to fight anyone, as he was no Uvagan, a fighting maniac, or a psychopath like Hisoka. Netero nodded. "Okay, that's it. You can go back now." Allan nodded and headed out of the room. As soon as he got out, the system gave him his reward. Ding. You answered Netaro's questions honestly and aroused his curiosity. You obtained devil fruit, Gamu Gamu no Mi. In an instant, Allan found a purple fruit in his hand. Is this the rubber fruit that Luffy ate? Allan stared at the devil fruit curiously. This was a Paramecia devil fruit, and after anyone eats it, he will turn into rubber. Although it doesn't sound great, this devil fruit has great potential. However, Allan wasn't interested in it, because he wanted a Logia fruit, especially Aokiji's ice fruit. Therefore, Allan stored it in his storage ring while thinking about who he should give it to. There is Gon, Killua, and Kurapika. Allan even thought about Illumi and Hisoka but changed his mind in the end. They all will be outstanding Nen masters in the future, and if they ate the rubber fruit, it would affect their future development. I will try selling it in the future then, Allan thought. In One Piece, a devil fruit can be sold for at least 100 million berry. So, in Hunter x Hunter world, it should at least have the same price. Allan temporarily decided to wait and see if he got a chance to sell it. After interviewing all the candidates, Netero decided on the duels based on their answers. Allan and the others received the news from Netero that the next phase will be duels between candidates. The rules are simple. You should make your opponent surrender without killing him. If you looked at the situation normally, you could see that only one person will be eliminated, which means that 90% of the candidates would pass the exam. But that's far from the truth. The weakest won't probably make it that far, and he will be eliminated almost surely. As for the strong candidates, they will be protected. Basically, Gon and Kurapika are both at risk of being eliminated. They are currently injured, and they can't fight properly. However, this depended on their opponents. Considering that some candidates were still recovering, Netero didn't start the test immediately. He made an official statement that the last phase will begin in 3 days. In these 3 days, everyone can eat their fill and recover their strength. Allan was quite relaxed right now because he will be at full power by the time the 3 days passes. 3 days passed in a flash, and on the 4th day, the airship landed on the Hunter Association's headquarters. Allan and the others stepped out of the airship and looked at the tall building. It was more than 100 meters tall with a huge Hunter logo printed on the front. This place is known as the safest place globally, as hundreds of professional hunters stationed here all year round. There are also the 12 Zodiacs along with Netero himself. With such a huge force, no one will be stupid enough to attack that place unless he wants to die. Allan and the others sighed at the magnificent building. The duel will take place in the hall on the 56th floor. In addition to Netero, the previous examiners will also be present. The first examiner, Satots, the second examiners Menchi and Buara, the third examiner Lapo. In addition to them, there are some new faces that Allan recognized. They are the 12 Zodiacs, Mizayistam, Ox, Kanzai, Tiger, Cheeto, Dog, and the Vice President, Pariston, Rat. This is quite the lineup for the Hunter Association. Allan was a little surprised as he saw 5 of the 12 Zodiacs present here. It wasn't just Allan looking at them. Hisoka and Killua were also focusing on them. As for Illumi, he only looked at Killua and was wondering who injured him so he can have a friendly little chat with them. Chairman, the number of candidates this year is much higher than the previous years. Vice President Pariston looked at the candidates then commented. It's not much. But it is quite the difference. Last year no one passed the exam, but this year it seems that 9 out of 10 will pass and become hunters. Next year, the number of candidates will definitively go back down. Chairman, out of all the candidates, which one do you think is the best? Everyone is quite good. Netero pretended to be dumb and didn't answer Pariston's question. Because once he said which one he admired the most, then Pariston will pay special attention to him. According to Netero, both parties can use any weapon without restriction in the duel, but to win, you need to make your opponent concede defeat. But if they kill someone, they are directly eliminated. Netero stood up and said, now then, the first duel can start. Suddenly the atmosphere changed as Netero pondered for a while and said, "The first duel, candidate number 123, Allan, against candidate number 294, Hanzo." Allan was shocked by this unexpected arrangement. Glancing at Netero, Allan found him kindly smiling, but that smile seemed mischievous. Hanzo was also stunned, not because he started first, but because he didn't expect his opponent to be Allan. "Damn it, the old man arranged such a difficult opponent for me." After a few complaints, Hanzo stepped to the center. Allan looked at Hanzo indifferently, but his expression changed as the system gave him another choice. 1. Knock out Hanzo within 1 minute. Reward, increase Nen by 3,000 points. 2. Make Hanzo admit defeat. Reward, after image clone. Allan thought for a while before picking the second option. He will show his strength and make Hanzo concede. Seeing the duel about to start, Hanzo suddenly said, "Wait, I have a question." "What is it?" Netero asked. "The rules of the duel, as long as the opponent says, 'I lost,' you win. If the opponent is unconscious, how will that be considered?" "In that case, the match will continue until the opponent admits defeat," Netero said while touching his beard. "I understand." Hanzo was relieved. Allan looked at Hanzo and said, "I guess you think that as long as I don't admit defeat, maybe I will win, right?" "That's not it." Hanzo denied it as if his thoughts were read and said, "I'm just thinking about how to defeat you. Also, don't underestimate me. I'm a ninja." Allan shrugged without care. Hanzo was good indeed. In the show, he was second only to Hisoka and Illumi. Even Kurapika won't hold a candle to Hanzo even with his scarlet eyes. However, Allan was way more powerful than Hanzo. He could even beat Yuvagan, let alone Hanzo, who didn't learn Nen yet. Following Netero commencing their fight, Hanzo rushed toward Allan quickly. His figure suddenly appeared in front of Allan in a display of speed. His hand rose, and a hidden weapon appeared out of his sleeve descending upon Allan. As the blade fell on Allan's head, the latter suddenly disappeared. Hanzo's pupil contracted as his sword passed through empty air. "So fast," Hanzo commented in his heart before retreating a few meters. "Your speed is all right," Allan said calmly, before smiling and taunted, "I don't know if you can go even faster." Hanzo coldly replied, "It looks like you're confident in your speed. Be prepared. My next attack will be faster." Hanzo launched himself with great speed at Allan but once again failed to make contact with Allan. "What?" Hanzo couldn't maintain his composure as Allan avoided his attack again. "The first time can be a fluke, but not the second time. Can you hurry up?" Allan taunted him with his index finger. Regardless of being a ninja or not, Hanzo is arrogant and couldn't bear Allan's provocation. He once again flashed and swung the hidden weapon at Allan fiercely. Allan didn't fight back. Instead, he relied on his observation haki and dodged. He wanted to make Hanzo realize the difference between their power and make his surrender. The first step was destroying Hanzo in terms of speed. As a ninja, he must be confident in his speed. Allan wanted to keep Hanzo attacking and make him lose confidence in his speed. Attack after attack headed toward Allan, who swayed slightly avoided each time without any effort. Gon and Kurapika were nervous as they looked at Allan. Hanzo was fast, and it seemed like an attack could connect at any moment. But Allan avoided each time when the blade seemed the closest to him. On the other hand, Killua looked indifferently. As an expert, he could see what Allan is doing better than the other two. In terms of skills, Killua wasn't inferior to Hanzo. Therefore, he could gauge Hanzo's power without a problem. Hanzo had great speed, but he was far behind Allan. Only when your speed is greater than your opponent can you dodge at the last moment like Allan is doing. Allan's face wasn't red, he wasn't breathing hard, and from time to time, he would taunt Hanzo. It's clear that Allan was way beyond Hanzo in terms of skills. With observation, Killua found out that Allan relied on a movement technique or some kind of footwork. And it was quite advanced as well. This was similar to the footwork of his family, but Allan's was much more advanced. Gon and Kurapika couldn't see this clearly, making them frightened and worried about Allan's safety. Killua couldn't help explain, "Don't worry, Allan is just playing with Hanzo." Kurapika was surprised, "You mean that Allan wasn't serious all this time?" Killua shrugged, "I can't say he wasn't serious. After all, Hanzo is quite good, but if Allan were truly serious, Hanzo would be dead. I'm very surprised as well because Allan is really strong, but he is only dodging Hanzo's attack without counterattacking." When Killua explained, "I understood what Allan is trying to do. He should be trying to prove the difference between them and force Hanzo to admit defeat," Gon said. Kurapika nodded, "That should be it. After all, the rule is clear. You need to make your opponent surrender, not defeat it. If Allan started to fight with defeating Hanzo in his mind, it would be easy. But as Hanzo is stubborn, he won't admit defeat." Kurapika and Gon were relieved as they discovered Allan's strategy. At this time, Vice President Pariston glanced at Netero and said, "Chairman, the candidates this year are quite strong. They are showing us such a wonderful fight from the start." Cheeto glanced at Pariston and Netero before saying, "The chairman didn't invite you, and you still have the cheek to come here, uninvited." Pariston squinted with a smile, "I'm still the vice chairman. I have that much authority." "Humph." Cheeto snorted, too lazy to retort. This time, Netero specially invited them and didn't invite Pariston, but the latter came here uninvited. This made her very upset as a member of Netero's faction. Because what Pariston did means that he thought less and less of Netero as the president. At this time, Netero, who was watching the duel, suddenly said, "This old man wants to join them in fun." Pariston squinted, "If the president's hands are itchy, you can just ask everyone from the 12 zodiacs for a spar. This is your original intention of making them anyway." The present 12 zodiacs members glared at Pariston and said, "Pariston, shut up. Why do you have to be so troublesome? Yes, if you want to spar with the chairman, you can be the first to go, as the vice president," the ox said. Pariston said readily, "Okay. If the president wants a spar with me, I will be delighted." Netero waved his hand and said, "I don't want to play with any of you at the moment. I'm only interested in those newcomers." Pariston said, "Since chairman is interested in them, I will arrange for a spar with them, is that okay?" Cheeto said, "Pariston, I will take care of the chairman's affairs. You aren't allowed to act toward those newcomers." Pariston raised his hand in surrender, "Well, I won't interfere." Cheeto ignored him, but she was still vigilant. She knew that Pariston wasn't someone who kept his words. As long as it is someone he is interested in, he will intervene. At this time, the battle between Allan and Hanzo changed. Hanzo couldn't land any hit on Allan and finally decided to use his secret skill. Shadow Clone. Hanzo made some hand seals, and in an instant, 3 clones appeared around him. Right now, there are 4 Hanzos in the scene. Each one moved in a different direction. Allan narrowed his eyes slightly as he seemed interested in Hanzo's ninjutsu. One of them said, "You can't avoid our attack now." After saying this, the 4 Hanzos attack Allan from 4 different directions. Allan's expression didn't change, as he used observation haki and avoided each attack without any difficulty. Hanzo didn't expect Allan to be so strong that he can avoid all those attacks. He knew that he had no hope to win against Allan, but he didn't give up instantly as he wanted to land a hit at least. But it wasn't easy to do because, since the start, he didn't even manage to touch Allan. Taking a deep breath, Hanzo decided to perform his last secret technique. Hanzo started circling Allan quickly before he was no longer visible to the naked eyes. So fast! Killua, Kurapika, and Pakal all exclaimed. At the moment, they knew that if they were the ones inside that encirclement, they had no way of escape. Only a few black afterimages kept flashing around Allan as Hanzo was preparing to launch a surprise attack. Even Hisoka and Kurlo looked at this technique in interest. Hanzo's speed wasn't that amazing, it was average or below average in their eyes, But the technique itself was good. They were also curious about whether Allan could avoid this attack like before or not. At this time, Allan finally showed a serious expression. His eyes flickered left and right, catching Hanzo moving around. In the next second, he sneered and disappeared. Leaf-strong whirlwind. Suddenly, Allan was in front of Hanzo and kicked him away. The three clones disappeared instantly as soon as Allan landed the kick. Hanzo was lying on the ground with a shoe print on his chest due to Allan's kick. He broke 2 ribs. Was that a coincidence? Hanzo got up with a pained expression. Allan shook his head as he already noticed Hanzo's technique's weakness. The so-called shadow clones are just an illusion. As long as you hit the original, the others will naturally disappear. Hanzo was taken aback as he didn't expect Allan to see through his technique. Indeed, it was just an illusion technique and didn't inflict any damage if a clan landed a hit. The purpose of this technique is to put pressure on the opponent to distract them. He was the only attacker. So, should we continue? No. Hanzo shook his head with a wry smile. There is no need to continue. I lost. Through this battle, Hanzo realized that he wasn't strong enough to fight Allan. He was convinced of his loss. No matter how much he fights, he is not Allan's opponent. At this time, Allan obtained his reward. Thing. You successfully convinced Hanzo to admit defeat through your power. Reward, Ninja Art, Afterimage Clones. After getting the information about the afterimage clone technique, he understood something. The so-called afterimage clones technique is a high-speed movement skill used to confuse the opponent, but unlike normal techniques, each clone had some weight behind it. It's like how the Byakugan can see shadow clone. Ordinary afterimage clone, create a physical clone that can attack and defend. Double afterimage clone, make 2 afterimage clones that can attack and defend. Triple afterimage clone, similar to double afterimage clone, but each clone is stronger. It can confuse anyone who witnessed the double afterimage clone. Multiple afterimage clone, a more power clone technique. It can create dozens of clones. The only disadvantage of this technique is they can't attack at the same time. This technique may not be useful for Allan now, but it's better to have more skills. Allan didn't dislike having more skills from the system because he believed that each skill could be useful in certain circumstances. At this time, Netero announced, winner of the first match, Allan. Please come up here. Hearing Netero calling him, Allan didn't hesitate as he walked onto the stage directly. Netero said to Cheetle, bring it out. Yes, Chairman. Cheetle took out a license with Allan's photo in it and handed it out to Netero. Allan's eyes were attracted to the ID photo in the hunter's license. Netero laughed and said, Allan, congratulations on becoming the first hunter to pass in the 287th hunter exam. From now on, you're a professional hunter. Thank you, Chairman. Allan took his license with a satisfied smile. Although it wasn't necessary to him, it showed his hard work. From this moment, he had an identity in the Hunter x Hunter world. Suddenly, Allan heard the system notification in his head. Thing. Hidden achievement unlocked, become a hunter. Reward, lucky draw. Allan was a little stunned as he heard the system's notification. He didn't expect to complete a system achievement. Once again, he heard the system's voice echoed in his head, you have won a lucky draw, do you want to use it? Allan thought for a while before deciding against using the lucky draw. If something incredible happened when he used it, it would attract too much unwanted attention, especially since Pariston was standing next to Netero and looked at him. Although he was smiling like a harmless person, Allan knew his personality well. He didn't like the feeling of someone watching him, so he greeted them and went back to Gon and the others. Kurapika and Gon looked at the hunter license in envy, especially the latter. Kurapika then congratulated, congratulations, Allan, you're now a professional hunter. Allan shrugged and said in a relaxed tone, yeah, I've done it. I will wait for you guys next. At this time, Netero announced the next duel. For the second duel, number 99, Killua, against number 405, Gon. As soon as they heard the announcement, Kurapika said in surprise, "How were the duels arranged? They actually made Killua and Gon fight each other." Gon said in a daze, "I don't know. That old man must have done this intentionally." Killua glared at Netero. After hearing this, Hisoka's eyes narrowed as he smiled. "Interesting." Illumi said, "Gon will definitively lose." Allan heard this and walked over. Now, it's too soon to determine the winner." Illumi said, "Gon is injured, and it's impossible for him to match Killua. Moreover, even if Gon isn't injured, it's difficult for him to defeat Killua, who received professional training since he was a child." Allan shook his head and said, "Although Killua is strong, Gon isn't ordinary as well. Moreover, this isn't about defeating someone, and it's about making them surrender." Hisoka agreed, "That's right, Gon won't be admitting defeat so easily. Especially since both of them are the same age." Even when Allan and Hisoka explained this, Illumi was confident in his brother and said, "Killua has received a lot of training and can make Gon surrender. He can scare Gon to the point it will leave a trauma." Allan's mouth raised as he said, "So, Illumi, how about a bet?" "What are we betting on?" Illumi asked. "Just who will emerge victorious between Gon and Killua." Illumi thought for a while before he said, "Although I have no interest in gambling since it's Killua, I will bet." Allan nodded and glanced at Hisoka. "Hisoka, can you be the witness?" Hisoka squinted and said, "I can. I'm also interested in Gon and Killua." When he said this, Hisoka looked at Kurlo and asked, "Are you going to be as well?" Kurlo glanced at them, then at Allan before shaking his head. "I'm not interested." Kurlo wasn't Hisoka, he can control himself, and he wasn't interested in both of them as well. Hisoka knew this but deliberately asked Kurlo, "All right." Allan glanced at Hisoka and said, "Did you think Kurlo was too bored too because he was alone, so you tried to call him?" "Yeah." Hisoka smiled and said, "After all, he had two companions before, but because of you, he is alone now." Hisoka didn't need to remind Allan because he already knew this. Although Kurlo said that he would not interfere with Uvalgan's revenge, Pakunoda's matter was another thing entirely. Allan could guess that Kurlo knew of this, and he must be dissatisfied despite him looking calm. After all, he is the leader of the Gane Ryodan, and Allan defeated and almost killed one of his men. If Kurlo lets it go, it will be like a face slap to him. However, Allan knew that Kurlo didn't pursue the matter because he still wanted him into the spiders. Furthermore, Uvalgan and Pakunoda were both arrogant and prideful, they wouldn't use Kurlo or anyone else to go against him. So Allan can temporarily discard this matter and worry about it later. At this time, Illumi said, "They are about to start. Do you still want to bet?" Allan said, "Of course." "Illumi, what do I get if I win?" Allan thought for a bit and said, "You and Hisoka owe me a favor. How about if you win, the favor is null?" Illumi said, "If I lose?" "Then you will owe another favor." Allan laughed and said, "That's fair, right?" Illumi nodded and said, "Yes." Hisoka squinted, "You promised something like that. You're a Brokan, and you trust Killua too much." Illumi replied, "Of course, anyone will unconditionally believe and support their brother." Hisoka, "I don't have a brother, so I don't know how you feel." Allan then said, "Well, who will win out of those two?" Illumi said, "Killua will win." Allan and Hisoka were speechless. Allan didn't bother to argue with this Brokan. Allan wasn't 100% confident that Gon will win. A large part of him made this bet because Gon is his friend. Also, he understood Gon better than anyone here. In the end, Allan believed that Killua wouldn't be cruel to Gon because Gon was Killua's first friend. Killua had a good side of him even with his cruel childhood. He won't be cruel to his friends and the people loyal to him. When Gon fought Neferpito, he sacrificed almost his life to defeat her. To save him, Killua took out his system to rescue Gon even though he was going against his family. That's how much Killua appreciates friendship. He cared a lot for his friend under that cold facade. Once he recognized someone as a friend, he would lay his life for them without question. But this kind of person is always the most terrifying because there is only a thread between love and hatred. If one day Gon and Killua fought and each went their path, one of them would die. Fortunately, those two will become best of friends later. Therefore, Allan believed that Killua wouldn't be cruel to Gon. Gon can't win this fight because his arms are broken, and it's impossible for him to fight Killua, but to win, someone has to admit defeat, and Gon won't, no matter what happens. Gon and Killua, right now, we're on the stage waiting for the fight to start. Many people were paying attention to them, especially Netero and Baristan. After all, both of them were young, and reaching this phase of the exam was a testimony of their talent. Killua, I won't admit defeat, Gon declared with a firm look on his face. I know that. Killua nodded before looking up at Netero and said, Old man, I give up. When Killua said this, most people here were shocked. Allan was surprised as well. He did guess that Killua will give up, but not that fast. It seems that he never thought about fighting Gon in the first place. In his eyes, the hunter's license is nothing compared to his friendship with Gon. At this time, the most affected person is Gon. Killua, why did you admit defeat? Gon asked. Killua shrugged, because I don't want to play in that old man's game. He arranged our fight just to see us fight. I will not give him what he wished for. Hearing this, Gon looked at Netero and said, Chairman, is that true? Netero was stunned as he didn't expect Killua to point the blame at him, and he didn't expect Gon to ask him. Well, no, this old man didn't ask you to fight for his pleasure. After hearing Netero's answer, Gon looked at Killua and said, Killua, did you hear that? He didn't do it for that reason. Gon was giving Killua a headache. He sighed, okay, I don't want to fight you, it's that simple. Why? Because I don't want to kill you, and I won't be able to find a way to make you admit defeat. So I had to surrender and not waste everyone's time. After hearing this, Gon said bluntly, Killua, although I don't want to admit defeat, I don't want you to sympathize with me. So, what do you want? Killua rolled his eyes and asked. Let's fight, Gon said sincerely. Will you admit defeat then? No. So, even if I beat you, you won't admit defeat, right? You idiot, Killua exclaimed as he punched Gon. Gon, are you an idiot? Since you're not willing to admit defeat, then why would I continue to fight you? That doesn't make sense. Gon's face swelled slightly, but he grinned at Killua. Okay, Killua, you attacked me, so the match started. Killua was taken aback and realized that Gon was deliberately angering him. Killua dodged Gon's attack then appeared behind him with a kick. Gon was aware of the danger, but because his hands were bandaged, he had no way to defend himself. He could only release Nen from his body to defend. Boom. In the next instant, Killua kicked Gon heavily and sent him flying away. Enough, Gon. I already said that I surrender, Killua said quickly. Gon didn't relent and got up. I said I don't need your sympathy, Killua. We are the same age. If you show me sympathy, then you're underestimating me. As your friend, I don't want to be underestimated by you. So I will fight till the end till you recognize me as your equal. Killua stood in place dazed. At this time, Gon rushed toward Killua and kicked. Killua defended with his hands, but Gon's strength made him retreat several meters. Killua felt his arms numb and said in surprise, what a strong kick, you used Nen there. At this time, Gon rushed once again, and Killua could only fight back seriously. For a while, Gon and Killua were fighting fiercely. The current Gon was far stronger than the one in the show. He learned from Allan how to use Nen, which made him stronger. In the show, Gon was always weaker than Killua since he received professional training since he was a child. On the other hand, Gon was just special since he lived on the island and played in the forest all the time, but he didn't receive any training. Only when Allan appeared did he start training and gain combat experience. Gon fought fiercely with Killua and managed to reach a stalemate. At least, in terms of strength, both of them were close, but Killua was faster. That's because Gon was using Nen to strengthen himself, making him a few times stronger than normal. Well, I admit, I underestimated you, Gon. I will be serious now. Killua started treating Gon as a challenge, and 10 minutes later, Killua saw an opportunity and hit Gon on the back of his neck, knocking him out. Seeing Gon fainted, Killua looked at Netero and said, I admit defeat. After saying this, Killua glanced at Gon and thought, sorry, Gon. If you weren't injured, I wouldn't have admitted defeat. I want to fight you, but in your current state, I will be just taking advantage of you. Netero stroked his beard and looked at Killua with admiration. Killua admits defeat. Gon wins. Killua, why did you surrender? When he came back, Kurapika asked, although he guessed the reason. Killua shrugged and said, Gon is injured. He can't fight me at full power. But I knew he's stubborn and wouldn't admit defeat. I don't want to kill him, and I don't want to waste time, so I just admitted defeat. Kurapika replied, I think Gon will be quite angry when he wakes up. Killua said, does it matter? I still have a chance, and I won't admit defeat in the next match. When I get my hunter license, he won't say anything. Kurapika nodded, that's true. Gon didn't wake up, so he was taken away by Satots. Allan glanced at Illumi and said, it looks like I won the bet. Illumi looked confused, why did Killua give up? Allan smiled, it's simple. He gave up because they are friends. Friends? Because for Killua, friendship is more important than victory. I don't get it. Illumi was still puzzled. Allan glanced at Hisoka and said, so if you fight Hisoka, will you give up? Illumi said, why would I? Allan said, then, what if Hisoka surrendered? Illumi said, well, I can accept that. Hisoka glanced at Allan and said, although we are friends, we are nothing like Gon and Killua. What they have is pure friendship, but the adult world is complicated. A friend today can be an enemy tomorrow. Illumi nodded, that's right. Hisoka and I are friends, but we can become enemies in the future. Allan understood that Illumi is a rational guy, not an emotional one. He became Hisoka's friend because they had the same interest. In the end, Allan just dropped the topic, then, since I won the bet, you owe me 2 favors now, right? What are you talking about? Illumi said, faking shock. Don't pretend to be stupid. Allan said, I have a witness here, right, Hisoka? Well, he is right. Hisoka nodded and said to Illumi, you don't want to go back on your words, right? Illumi thought for a while then said, well, I owe you 2 favors. When you want me to pay you back, call me. Allan gave him a thumb up. He raised his head and glanced at Netero on the stage. At this time, Netero announced the 3rd duel. The 3rd match is between Kurapika and Hisoka. Allan, who was originally planning to go ahead and visit Gon, stopped. Killua said, Kurapika, admit defeat. You can't defeat Hisoka. Kurapika knew that Killua is right, but he still wanted to try. I want to try my luck. Killua shrugged and said, well, you have another chance if you lose now anyway. Kurapika knew that without Nen, he had no way of defeating Hisoka. But despite that, it was a rare chance to fight Hisoka, so he wanted to try. If he admits defeat directly, everyone will look at him as if he was weak. Allan didn't say anything because he knew that the gap was too big, and no matter how much Kurapika tries, he can't beat Hisoka. Unless there is a miracle, Kurapika won't win. Suddenly, Allan remembered that in the show, Hisoka admitted defeat when he faced Kurapika, so maybe he would do that this time as well. But in the show, Hisoka admitted defeat because he knew that Kurapika's enemy is the spiders. That's why he cooperated with Kurapika. But now, Allan didn't know if Hisoka knew about that yet. Hisoka, you don't want to give up, do you? Allan asked Hisoka before the latter moved to the stage. Hisoka smiled, why do you think I will give up? Allan thought for a while and said, well, I just have an intuition. I think you look at Kurapika like you do to Gon and Killua, So I think you are interested in Kurapika's growth, no? You aren't the type to pick unripe fruit. You will know later. Hisaka's answer made Allan frown as he couldn't guess what Hisaka would do later. Hisaka moved to the center of the stage. He looked at Kurapika and said, "Come, I won't use Nen to fight you." Kurapika was angered. "Are you looking down on me?" Hisaka squinted. "I just want to test you." Kurapika clenched his fist as he knew that he couldn't defeat Hisaka no matter what he did. Kurapika coldly said, "If you want to test me, then I will let you have a taste of my power. If I accidentally kill you, then I'm sorry in advance." Seeing Kurapika's expression, Hisaka's eyes squinted, and smiled. "Yes, that kind of look is what I'm looking for, that anger. Come, I will enjoy this fight." To avenge his clan, he went to hell and back practicing each day so that he won't back down now. Kurapika took out his weapon, which is 2 short swords, and vigorously waved them. Hisaka avoided each attack with his flexible body. Everyone was reminded of Allan's match against Hanzo. Everyone, including Allan, thought that Hisaka would copy Allan's way to defeat his opponent. No one can deny that it was a good strategy. Kurapika glared at Hisaka. "I'm not Hanzo, don't think you can make me admit defeat. If you want to beat me, come and fight." "Is that so?" Hisaka smiled and suddenly rushed at Kurapika. Kurapika was startled, but he quickly used a front kick on Hisaka's abdomen to push him back. Unfortunately, Hisaka grabbed his leg and twisted it before throwing him away. Kurapika fell 10 meters away while Hisaka threw out his weapons. The outcome was clear. Even without Nen, Hisaka was stronger. Even so, Kurapika didn't give up. He quickly got up and threw some hidden weapons at Hisaka, or more like darts. Hisaka squinted before stepping aside, avoiding the darts. He reached his hand and grabbed a dart and threw it back at Kurapika, who was rushing forward. With a ding, Kurapika blocked the dart with another short sword before thrusting the sword at Hisaka. The latter bent over 90 degrees and avoided Kurapika's attack. Kurapika continued his attacks while Hisaka simply dodged. Hisaka smiled creepily. "Yes, your physical strength is good, and if you learn Nen, your power will increase very much." He looked at Kurapika like a pervert and said, "I didn't misjudge you. You're a delicious fruit. I'm tempted to pick you off right now." Kurapika felt a chill pass through his body as he saw the look on Hisaka's face and heard his words. "He described me as a delicious fruit that he can pick." Kurapika kept attacking without stop as he felt his attacks were closer and closer to hitting Hisaka. In the end, Hisaka stopped his sword with his bare hand and said, "Don't play with such dangerous toys." Hisaka flicked the sword after saying this, and it broke instantly while kicking Kurapika on the stomach. He flew up and fell several meters away. Hisaka narrowed his eyes and said, "Will you continue?" Kurapika grabbed his stomach without replying. Instead, he rushed toward Hisaka again. He wasn't afraid of death. The only thing on his mind is defeating Hisaka. Hisaka looked at Kurapika in admiration, or that's what most people thought it was as he knocked him down several times over. Kurapika didn't relent. He kept getting up, not thinking about giving up. He had broken bones all over the place, but he still got up. He didn't want to go down like this. He wanted to get stronger, and he will move forward no matter what. Hisaka's smile disappeared as he looked at Kurapika with some seriousness. Kurapika's tenacity exceeded his expectations. "I originally thought that you were a good fruit, but now it seems that I'm wrong. You are a new star that will shine, and I will look forward to your future performance." After saying this, Hisaka looked at Nitro and said, "I surrender." The audience was in an uproar when they heard this. Naturally, Kurapika was the most shocked. He was barely standing as he looked at Hisaka in disbelief. "Hisaka, why are you surrendering?" Kurapika asked Hisaka, who was about to leave. Hisaka paused as he flashed in front of Kurapika and whispered something in his ears, making Kurapika's expression change. He became surprised and slightly angry as his eyes turned scarlet for an instant. but it quickly disappeared and returned to normal. Hisaka's mouth rose into a sly smile before he walked off, while Krillo seemed a little angry. Allan understood that Hisaka told Kurapika about the spiders, and that caused his anger. Just like the show, Hisaka was planning on cooperating with Kurapika, and Krillo probably noticed Kurapika's eyes turn scarlet for a second. He probably remembered the Kurta clan as he was the one who killed them and knew now that Kurapika was a survivor of that clan. Allan started wondering if Krillo would cut the weed to the roots or will he let Kurapika live. He stayed back for a while to see the next fight, which happened to be between Illumi and Pakal and then Krillo against Badaro. Illumi won his match, and Krillo won his. The next round will be between the 5 who didn't win, who are Hisaka, Hanzo, Killua, Pakal, and Badaro. They will fight, and the candidate who lost all his matches will fail the exam. It's mostly certain that Killua, Hisaka, and Hanzo will pass one after the other, and the last match will probably be between Pakal and Badaro. Allan was no longer interested in watching the fights anymore and left. After asking around about Gon's whereabout, the other hunters told Allan that any hunter would have the privilege to enjoy medical service with almost no fees. A hunter would only need to pay 5% of the treatment fee, and the remaining 95% will be taken care of by the Hunter Association. At this moment, Gon is a professional hunter, so he enjoyed such a privilege. He was in a VIP ward with a doctor performing surgery on his injuries. After 2 hours, Gon's injuries were stabilized, and he only needed to stay in the hospital for a month. At this time, Allan remembered the lucky draw. So, he directly took a room provided by the association for free for some privacy. In a room on the 26th floor, Allan prepared to start the lucky draw. He was hoping to get a Logia devil fruit, like ice fruit or lightning fruit. Thing. Start the lucky draw. A giant roulette appeared in front of Allan, full of prizes. There were many avatars of anime characters, like Hagoromo Otsutsuki, Tsunade Senju, and even Minato Namikaze. There were also Monkey, D-Dragon, Whitebeard, and even Mihawk. There are even Dragon Ball characters, like Goku, number 18, Bulma, and many others. Allan started the roulette instantly. Thing. Congratulations, you won a character card. Character card? And it's a time limit card? Allan froze for a moment. He doesn't want any character cards, he wants a devil fruit. However, he can't change anything now. The lucky roulette disappeared. Allan looked at the card that appeared in his hand. The card about the size of the hunter's license. Allan looked at it with disappointment, wanting to see which character he got. If it's a good character, then he didn't lose out. If it is someone useless, he will throw it away. When he saw the card, he was stunned. The character he got was none other than Boa Hancock. The Empress Boa Hancock, one of the Shishibukai and the captain of the Kuja pirates, and the Queen of Amazon Lily. She was one of the 3 top beauties of One Piece's world. She is called the most beautiful because she is better known in the world and no man can keep calm when he sees her. She ate the love fruit that can turn the target into stone with a look. She was also proficient in hockey, all 3 types. And now, this character belongs to Allan. 1. Allan looked at the card and saw the description of how to use it. When the character is summoned, it will be bound to the summoner who can fully control the character. The card time limit is 365 days, which is precisely a year. In other words, Allan can unconditionally enjoy the ownership of Boa Hancock for a year. Allan couldn't remain calm anymore. His initial disappointment turned into excitement and expectation. He imagined a scene where Boa Hancock is subdued at his feet, and his mouth rose into an evil smile. After calming down a bit, Allan started the summoning, which was very simple. He just needed to chant the words on the card. Allan took a deep breath and started silently reciting. From One Piece, the Princess of Amazon Lily, the daughter of the sea. Boa Hancock. Inside an elegant room, Boa Hancock sat on her throne with her pet snake Salome. Suddenly the ground under her rippled as if it was made of water before a black hole formed. Boa Hancock was startled as she quickly grabbed Salome, who responded quickly and wrapped its body around a pillar. However, it didn't matter, as the attraction force was too strong, and they were both sucked into the black hole. At this time, Allan was in his room whispering, "Boa Hancock! Boa Hancock!" Suddenly a black hole appeared from the ceiling, and Boa Hancock, along with her pet, fell. Seeing Boa Hancock on the ground, Allan wasn't distressed at seeing her fall, but he still moved forward and extended his hand to help her up. Boa Hancock didn't understand what was happening as she felt dizzy. When she returned to her senses, she found a man before her and was scared at first. Then the fear turned to anger as she kicked at Allan. Perfume femur. Hancock sent a petrification kick at Allan, who knew this will happen from the start and blocked her leg. Boa Hancock frowned as her kick was blocked by the man's hand without petrifying him. Why isn't his hand petrified? Putting this thought to the back of her mind for a moment, Boa Hancock scanned the room for a bit. She was in an unfamiliar room with an unfamiliar man. She clearly remembered that she was in her room just now and was preparing to change and take a shower, but a black hole appeared out of nowhere, and she was sucked in. She couldn't tolerate being in the same room as Boa Hancock, especially since he touched her hand just now. This made her extremely angry, and she wanted to kill Allan to vent her anger. But before that, she still had some questions she needed answered. She leaned back slightly, stretched her hand, and pointed at Allan haughtily before demanding, "Who are you? Why did I appear here in this room?" Allan knew of Hancock's arrogance. He didn't give her face and answered coldly, "Boa Hancock, don't keep using that arrogant attitude. This isn't Amazon Lily." "Where are you talking about?" Boa Hancock frowned. Allan looked at her and couldn't deny her beauty even though she is frowning. Boa Hancock once again started questioning Allan, "Where is this place? And how did you bring me here?" Allan didn't answer her as she asked with an arrogant tone but instead said, "Boa Hancock, you are no longer the pirate empress you were. You are now mine, my servant." Hancock's anger flared as she jumped up and kicked Allan again. "I'm going to kill you, perfume femur." However, she was surprised to find that her body was no longer under her control. She looked up and saw Allan's face full of sarcasm. "I said you're my servant, didn't I? How dare you say such a thing? As if this princess will submit to you." Hancock gritted her teeth. Allan shrugged, "That's the truth because I finished the contract with you, I became your master, and as long as I think about it, you won't be able to move." Boa Hancock couldn't believe his words. But to her surprise and horror, she couldn't move her body. Not only can he control her, but she will lose control of her body whenever she wants to attack Allan. This is impossible. Hancock couldn't believe this. She can't accept a man controlling her. However, it was reality. Am I really contracted with this man? Seeing Hancock doubting life, Allan felt really refreshed. It was not because he was a sadist or anything, it felt good conquering such an arrogant woman. Allan looked at his palm and saw a Hydra skull tattoo on his palm. This was the contract between both of them. "You bastard, you dare make me your servant," Hancock shouted and glared at Allan. Allan replied, "I already said that your attitude and identity are useless here. You're my servant, and you will do anything I ask of you." Hancock snorted coldly, "Huh, who do you think you are? It's just a contract, and you think I will listen to you? You don't believe me?" Allan sneered. According to the character card's description, when the character is summoned and the contact is formed, the host can fully control the character. Thing. Please choose. 1. May the proud pirate empress kneel on one knee. Reward, Conqueror Hockey, Advanced. 2. Make the pirate empress slap herself twice. Reward, Armament Hockey, Intermediate. 3. Make the pirate empress lick your shoes. Reward, Perfume Femur. Looking at the options, Allan could only sigh. The system was ruthless. To smash the empress's arrogance, he needs to slowly go at it, or else she won't become honest. The third option was just too much, and Allan didn't want Hancock's face all swollen if she slapped herself. Allan wasn't that kind of pervert to choose the third option. It's not that he is a gentleman or something, but it's just he looked down on that kind of behavior. So, in the end, he just picked the first option. He looked at her and ordered, "Boa Hancock, kneel on one knee." "You want me to kneel? Do you want to die?" Hancock didn't expect such an order, but to her surprise, her body moved. She looked at her body as it moved and knelt on one knee without being able to resist. Thing. You made the proud pirate empress kneel on one knee. Reward, Conqueror Hockey, Advanced. Allan felt his Conqueror Hockey get stronger. He felt that his Conqueror Hockey is now as strong as Silver Rayleigh. Looking at Hancock kneeling, Allan said, "Boa Hancock, you should know now that I can control you, and you can't resist." At this time, Salome saw its owner kneeling and suddenly opened its mouth and jumped to bite Allan. But before it could come close to Allan, it stopped by an invisible force. Boa Hancock looked at Allan in surprise. Just now, that is the Conqueror Hockey? The same Conqueror Hockey that I have. Why does this man have this ability? Could it be that he is like me? Does he have the qualification to be a king? Allan looked at Boa Hancock and smiled slightly. "I think that you don't doubt me now, right?" Hancock snorted coldly. Although she was shocked by the Conqueror's Hockey, she wouldn't submit so easily. "Man, you should let me go, or else I will kill you." Allan shook his head. "It seems you didn't recognize the status quo yet." He took a step forward and pinched her chin without his hand and leaned closer. "You should remember, you are neither the pirate empress, nor are you a Shishibukai. You are my servant. If you don't understand this and keep being arrogant, I will slap your behind." However, it seems that Allan underestimated the arrogance of this woman. "You're so rude to this princess. I will not let you go. When I return to Amazon Lily, I will do my best to kill you." Allan sighed. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Slap the pirate empress Hancock twice. Reward, double physical strength. 2. Humiliate the pirate empress Hancock and let her feel shame. Reward, double physical strength. 3. Punish your arrogant servant the way a man punishes a woman by slapping her butt. Reward, armament hockey, advanced. Allan decisively ignored the first and second options. He wasn't about to beat a woman or humiliate her. He wasn't such a scumbag. Only the third article is in line with Allan's wishes. Only that way can he crush her arrogance. Moreover, the reward's so good that he won't let this opportunity pass. Allan immediately used the contract force and made Hancock stand up. "Man, what are you trying to do to me?" Seeing Allan approaching, Hancock became vigilant. Although she wanted to attack Allan, her body couldn't move. Allan said coldly, "Since you don't want to accept reality, I have to punish you." "You, what do you want to do to me?" Hearing the word punishment made Hancock nervous. Allan looked at her and said, "Boa Hancock, I will use the strongest way for men to punish a woman. Prepare yourself." "The strongest way?" Boa Hancock was taken aback. Hancock was on the bed face down 2 hours later as she couldn't sit straight from the pain as Allan looked in satisfaction at the bloody red butt he just finished slapping. TN, yes, the author is only leaving hints. At this time, the system's notification echoes in Allan's mind. Thing. You used the strongest physical punishment on the pirate empress to crush her arrogance. Reward, armament hockey, advanced. Allan raised his hand, and a thick layer of black material covered it. He could tell that with hockey, his fist is as hard as steel or harder. Allan was quite satisfied with the Empress' crushed arrogance along with the armament hockey and conqueror hockey. Allan glanced at Boa Hancock, who was in a trance, and said, "From now on, you will stay by my side. You will follow me wherever I go, and if you don't obey, I will keep using this punishment." After a long silence, Hancock nodded her head unwillingly. She looked at Allan bitterly as she couldn't forgive Allan for what he'd done to her. But she can't be arrogant anymore, as she knew that Allan could control her at will. So, she could only swear that if the opportunity arises, she will kill that man. Allan knew that Boa Hancock was now vowing to kill him, but at least she wasn't arrogant anymore. Although it was a little despicable to punish her by beating her butt, at least she calmed down now. Having her as an attendant is like having a powerful ally. At this time, Boa Hancock suddenly asked, "If I obey your orders, can you let me go back?" Allan thought for a while and said, "Yes, if you want to regain your freedom, don't defy me. If I'm happy, I will let you go back." Hancock didn't speak anymore, as she seemed skeptical about Allan's words. After all, Hancock couldn't trust Allan. He was a demon with a smiley face. Allan didn't care about Hancock's thoughts. After a while, he took Hancock and left the room, ready to check if the exam was over, while the snake, Salome, followed after its mistress. "Where are you taking me?" Boa Hancock asked as she left the room. Allan stopped and glanced at her. "It's not where I want to take you, but starting today, you will follow me wherever I go." Hearing this, Hancock frowned. "Don't go too far. No one has even made this empress follow him." Allan said, "Then I will be the first, and the only one." Hancock bit her teeth as she was unwilling to follow him, but she can't control her body even if she wanted. She could only give up bitterly and stopped asking questions. The only thing that gave her comfort was her pet Salome, who was still following her. It has been 3 hours since Allan left the exam hall. So the exam should have ended already. Still, he didn't discard the possibility of a break between each round. "By the way, my name is Allan, and you can call my name directly, I don't mind. Also, regarding my identity, you should know that I became a professional hunter 3 hours ago." After getting into the elevator, Allan briefly introduced himself to Hancock. He thought that he should at least tell her the most basic information. Hancock snorted, "Who do you think you are? This empress isn't interested in knowing your name." Allan's mouth rose into a smile. "Although you say that, you're really curious, aren't you?" "What?" Hancock was shocked as she looked at Allan. Allan seemed to know what she was thinking, and he confirmed it. "You're right. Not only can I control your body, but I can read your thoughts as well." Allan didn't brag much about this, but he really can read her thoughts when he concentrated on the character card. At this time, Hancock thought, "What a terrifying man, can he really read my mind? If that's true, won't I be his servant forever? Can it not resist his control?" Allan's mouth rose slightly as he said, "You don't have to resist me, and don't talk back. Otherwise, I will punish you accordingly." Hancock gritted her teeth and said nothing. Allan's punishment gave her great shame. She never suffered such a shame only once before, and she didn't want to suffer another time. Realizing this, the proud empress finally lowered her head in front of Allan. When they reached the exam hall, the fights didn't end as they were taking a break. Those who still didn't finish their fights were Hisaka, Hanzo, Killua, Badoro, and Pakal. Kurapika, Illumi, and Krilo already won their first matches and obtained their hunter's license. As he stepped in, Allan attracted the attention of almost everyone in the room. As the first person to pass the exam and show absolute strength, he gained almost everyone's respect. However, soon they noticed the peerless beauty beside Allan and could stop staring. They never before in their life saw a woman as beautiful. Her bearing, her face, her body, everything seemed out of a fantasy novel, and with the snake beside her, it made her look like a noble. At this moment, except for Allan, everyone was looking at Hancock. Except for a few weird guys, like Hisaka, Illumi, and Krilo, all people present were attracted to her. They all had the same thought, how could such a woman exist in this world? Their eyes seemed stuck like glue on Hancock's body. They looked at Hancock and knew that the word beauty was invented to describe a woman like Hancock. Even Netero, who lived for 100 years, was looking at Hancock with hearts in his eyes, which somehow made Allan think of Master Roshi, Mutant Roshi, Kamasenin, from Dragon Ball. Allan blocked Hancock from everyone's view and said, "What the matter, haven't seen a beautiful woman before." Allan's words caused everyone to awaken from their mesmerization, and some of them looked sheepish. At this time, Netero waved at Allan. Allan said, "Is there something, President?" Netero coughed twice and said, "Allan, the final is currently being held here, except for the candidates and professional hunters. No one is allowed here." Netero glanced at Hancock as he said this and continued, "So, can you tell me, who is that lady beside you?" Allan was about to answer, but Hancock assumed her arrogant pose reflexively and pointed at Netero. "Smelly old man, don't you even know who this Empress is?" Hancock opened her eyes and looked at everyone in the hall arrogantly, which made everyone stunned at how she addressed herself. Hancock said, "Listen well, this Empress is Boa Hancock, the Empress of Amazon Lily and captain of the Kuja Pirates, one of the Shishibukai. You lowly people should call me Your Majesty, or Empress. If you call me Miss or Lady again, I will kill you." Netero and the others are dumbfounded. Regardless of the titles are true or not, Netero and the others were convinced that she is a narcissist. And because nobles had such temperament already, and with her saying she was an empress, they can't question her. The tiger, Kanzai, looked at the ox, Myziastum beside him, and whispered, "Isn't this woman too arrogant? How dare she call the president a smelly old man, and she called herself the Snake Empress." Ox glanced at Netero before whispering back, "Well, the president seems to be indifferent." Kanzai was taken aback as he could see Netero's gaze stuck to Hancock and wasn't bothered by her rudeness. He looked back at Ox and said, "Isn't the old man too old already? Is he eyeing that girl?" Kanzaki said dumbfoundedly. The ox, Myziastum, said, "I can't blame him really, that woman is simply too beautiful. To be honest, I didn't see any woman so beautiful all my life." Seeing Myziastum, who already seemed calm, mesmerized as well, Kanzai was a little anxious. Don't be tricked, the president seemed to be confused by that woman. She must have some ability to attract everyone's attention to her, so be careful. Huh? Hancock heard Karzai's words and pointed at him. "Insolence, who allowed you to talk about this empress? This empress beauty isn't something you can talk about." Hearing this, Kanzai was stunned for a moment before he said in retort, "Who says you're beautiful? You arrogant, narcissistic woman. Also, who do you think you're calling insolent? I'm a member of the 12 Zodiac, the tiger, Kanzai." Hancock didn't look at him at all. She titled her head and said arrogantly, "This empress won't remember an insolent's name, and this empress beauty is beyond doubt. You woman, you're too arrogant. I will teach you a lesson," Kanzaki said furiously. Seeing Kanai was about to attack, Myziastum discouraged him. "Stop, Kanzai, hitting a woman isn't very gentlemanly. You think I don't know that you want to help her because she's beautiful?" Kanzai exclaimed. Myziastum quickly explained, "No, I'm not attracted to her, I just think that the 12 zodiacs should follow our own rule and not use force without authorization, especially against women. Myziastum is a double-star crime hunter and always abide by the rules." Therefore, his words were his own without being influenced by Hancock's beauty. But somehow, Myziastum blushed inexplicably after saying this. Kanzaki looked speechless for a while before saying, "It looks like you and the president were fascinated by this woman. I should take action and break her control over you." Just as he finished talking and prepared to attack, Hancock already sent a kick at him. Perfume femur. Feeling the power behind the kick, Kanzai was surprised, but he reacted fast enough and jumped away, avoiding it. After he landed, he looked at Hancock as if she were his prey. Hancock snorted coldly, "You actually avoided my kick. It seems like you are slightly strong." Kanzai stared at Boa Hancock and gritted his teeth angrily, "You're really a lawless woman since you attacked me. First, I will fight back." Hancock didn't bother talking to him as she sent a kick after the other. Kanzai kept avoiding her attack and finally jumped away, but he found another kick moving toward him as he landed. Fast. Kanzai quickly crossed his arms in front of him, blocked the kick, and skidded back a few meters. Karzai's expression sank. Although he blocked the kick, the impact made his arms numb. He could tell that she attacked with killing him as her objective. "Damn it, I'm getting serious, Kanzai exclaimed. Although he is fast to anger, he didn't like to use force on a woman. If she didn't force him, he wouldn't have done it. As Kanzai was about to fight back, his expression changed. What? What is this? He saw part of his arm that he defended with turn into stone. His attention was on Hancock, so he didn't notice it, but now that he tried to move his arm, he felt something, and as he looked, he saw his arm petrified. Kanzai quickly thought, if this continues, my arm will be gone. Mizayistum, Cheeto, and the others noticed this, and their faces changed. Is this that woman's nen ability? After kicking Kanzai, his arm was petrified. Mizayistum frowned. Hancock said coldly, this will be the end of your disrespect for this empress. Anyone who is quickly by her perfume femur will be petrified, whether it's a male or female. This is the ability granted to her by her devil fruit. In close combat, no matter if you block the kick or not, you will be petrified as long as it touches you. Kanzai used his nen to defend against her attack, or else his arm would have been petrified on the spot and maybe even shattered. It's precisely because of the nen defense that the petrification process was reduced, but even so, it still took effect. Hancock didn't use more than 70% of her power, but even so, Kanzai only covered his hand with a layer of nen. He didn't even can to defend. Right now, Kanzai's face was hideous. He discovered to his horror that the petrification didn't stop on the surface, but even his blood vessels showed signs of petrification. He knew that if he didn't deal with this quickly, his arms would be destroyed. He immediately used his ren to exude nen from his pore and counter the petrification. Kanzai's method was barbaric, but it got the job done. The nen coming out of his body managed to make the petrification stop and recede until it vanished. When the others saw this, they were relieved. Especially, Mizayistum, who had a good relationship with Kanzai. Allan narrowed his eyes slightly as he knew how strong Hancock's petrification is. Most people wouldn't have a way to deal with Hancock's marrow fruit, but Kanzai's way, although barbaric and straightforward, was proven effective. Allan had to sigh. Nen was quite versatile. After learning even the basics of it, you can do many things with it. It can turn into many things, like electricity, ice, chains, bullets, weapons, etc. Ren may be one of the basics of Nen, but Kanzai's use of it was appropriate. When the petrification problem was solved, Hancock showed surprise. You can actually resist the petrification of this empress. You're slightly capable. Kanzai raised his head and glared at the woman, then said, damn it. I am angry. You are dangerous. I will arrest you. Hancock didn't show weakness as she pointed her hand at him. Whatever this empress does, will be forgiven. I won't forgive you. Kanzai rushed at Hancock. Perfume femur. Hancock directly sent a kick without any hesitation, and since Kanzai knew what the kick could do, he didn't dare block it. He avoided the kick and rushed to her side. Slave arrow. Hancock immediately put her hand on her lips, and a big pink heart appeared. She pinched the heart with her hand and launched hundreds of arrows that will turn anything that touches them into stone. Kanzai saw the hundreds of the love arrow fired toward him, and his complexion changed a little. He didn't dare block and started dodging the arrows. However, Hancock already sealed off the area with nearly 200 arrows. An arrow shot Kanzai on his left tight, and it started to turn into stone. Kanzai's face was hideous as the petrification started spreading all over his body. He couldn't deal with the petrification completely, and if he doesn't, he will turn to stone in 10 seconds. In 3 seconds, his lower body was turned to stone, and he couldn't delay anymore as he used Ren once again to fight against the petrification. Under the constant release of his nen, the petrification stopped, and layers of cement-like things fell to the ground. After that, Kanzai was panting as he used too much nen just now. If he continues to fight, he will be hard-pressed as the amount of nen needed to eliminate the petrification wasn't small. But this wasn't the worst of it at all. If that woman attacked him while he is using Ren, he would be hard-pressed to defend. Although he didn't want to admit it, He will lose if this continues. At this moment, Hancock saw that Kanzai removed the petrification twice and was about to attack him again. Slave arrow. Once again, she formed the pink heart and was about to launch countless arrows at Kanzai, but seeing the situation turning for the worst, Allan finally said, "Enough, Hancock." Hearing this, Hancock stopped and released the pink heart. "This Empress wants to kill that guy," Hancock said. Although she can't be arrogant in front of Allan, it doesn't mean that her arrogance completely disappeared. She will be arrogant to anyone but Allan. Karzai's rudeness made her unhappy, and she wanted to kill him. "Get back here. Do you want to defy me?" Allan said coldly, and finally, Hancock returned beside him. She was upset, but she didn't want to experience Allan's punishment again. However, Kanzai didn't feel that it was enough and didn't want things to end this way, so he said, "President, didn't you see? That woman is dangerous. I suggest that we catch her or drive her away from the association." Faced with Karzai's accusation, Hancock said arrogantly, "No matter what this Empress does, it will be forgiven. After all, this Empress is beautiful." After saying this, Hancock flicked her hair back, which made her dazzling. Allan glanced at Kanzai and found him blushing with everyone except the known freaks. Even the women were blushing. Allan could only sigh. Her most incredible power wasn't her marrow fruit, but her beauty. Only 4 people lacked a reaction at this time. They were Illumi, Hisoka, Krilo, and Pristine. "Oh, what a dangerous woman!" Park's tone squinted. As he said this, he looked at Allan and asked, "Allan, can you tell us who she is? If you don't, then we will ask her to leave." Allan thought about a response, but the system interrupted his thoughts. Ding. Make your choice. 1. Tell Pariston and the others that Hancock is your secretary. Reward, increase amount of Nen by 5,000 points. 2. Tell Pariston and the others that Hancock is your contract servant. Reward, Paramecia explosion fruit, Mr. 5 from Alabasta's Ark. 3. Tell Pariston and the others that Hancock is your fiancé, and make the Empress kiss you in public. Reward, Logia ice fruit. It actually gave out the ice fruit? Allan's eyes lit up after seeing the reward of the third option. He confirmed a few times that it's really the ice fruit and directly chose the third option excitedly. He truly didn't expect such a reward. Although he will wrong Hancock with his choice, he didn't regret it. After all, Hancock belonged to him for an entire year, and for the sake of his favorite fruit, he will do it. So even if he temporarily wronged her by calling her his fiancée and making her kiss him, she can't disagree or resist. Almost everyone here was curious about the Empress' identity. Although she claimed to be the Empress of Amazon Lily, somewhere no one here knew about except Alana and Hancock herself, they still didn't believe her completely. However, with her power, everyone got curious about her and her relationship with Allan. Allan immediately faced Pariston and said, "Well, she's my fiancée." A simple sentence, but it caused a massive reaction from everyone hearing it. Everyone looked at Allan in surprise. They never imagined that Allan would have such a beautiful fiancée at such a young age. Netero smiled, "Hee, I didn't think that you would already have a fiancée when you're so young, and it's actually such a beautiful woman as well. I really envy you." "Yeah, I'm lucky." Allan smiled with satisfaction. At this time, Boa Hancock almost cried in her heart. "Damn, man. What is he talking about? When did I become his fiancée?" If it weren't for the contract, Hancock would have already attacked Allan. But she wasn't as impulsive as before. She didn't want to experience that punishment again. Therefore, although she was unhappy, Hancock didn't say anything to refute Allan. Pariston could see the abnormality in Hancock's face and looked at Allan, saying, "Allan, you said that she is your fiancée, is there any evidence?" Hearing this, Allan glanced at Pariston and frowned. As someone who watched the show, he was clear about Pariston's personality. He may seem friendly and polite, but under his smile is a sharp knife. He is a black-bellied guy. Therefore, he didn't have a good impression of Pariston, and since H questioned his relationship with Hancock, it made Allan a little unhappy. Allan looked at Pariston, and his tone no longer polite. Vice Chairman, even Chairman Netero didn't question my relationship with Hancock, so what qualification do you have to do so as a Vice Chairman? Allan's sudden outburst stunned Pariston. He was stunned because Allan always seemed gentle and polite, but now he seemed fierce and ignored him as the Vice Chairman. The other members of the 12 Zodiacs present were happy to see someone put Pariston in his place. As they often worked together, they were clear about Parsitone's personality. After being stunned for a while, Pariston smiled and said, "Allan, I don't want to question you, but I'm the Vice Chairman of the association and responsible for things like this. The Empress beside you is powerful, but we aren't sure if she is your fiancée or not, and if she really isn't, she cannot stay here." After this, Pariston glanced at Netero and said, "Am I wrong, Chairman?" Netero nodded. "Well, that's right, if the Empress is your fiancée, then please prove it. Otherwise, she has to leave." "Okay, then." Allan shrugged. Since Netero himself asked, he would have to show some evidence. After saying this, Allan opened his arm and put it on Hancock's waist, pulling her closer to him. Boa Hancock didn't expect this as she felt Allan's strong arm around her waist, pulling her closer to his body. She was shocked by the intimate situation that she never felt before. She wanted to get rid of Allan right now. However, as soon as a thought of resistance appeared in her mind, Hancock couldn't act on it and could only give up. At this time, Allan gave Hancock an order to show affection. "Hancock, cooperate with me in front of everyone, and kiss me." This order was directly transmitted into Hancock's mind, and Hancock could only say in desperation, "This Empress. It is true that this Empress is his fiancée. No doubt about it." After saying this, Hancock took the initiative to kiss Allan on the cheek. Suddenly, a pale pink lip print appeared on Allan's cheek. This scene attracted the envy of most guys in the room. Pariston could say nothing else. After all, they have witnessed how arrogant the Empress was and knew that she wouldn't let it go if Allan touched her, let alone kiss him herself if she wasn't his fiancée. The show of affection made people unable to question their relationship anymore. At the same time, a voice rang in Allan's mind. "Ding. You succeeded in making Pariston believe that Hancock is your fiancé. Reward, Logia ice fruit." Ding. The system detects that the current environment of the host isn't suitable for handing out the reward. Do you want to store the reward in the system's inventory? Allan was quite surprised by the system's intelligence. And now, it seems that there is an inventory function as well. Considering that everyone is here, Allan wanted to avoid their attention and directly chose to store the reward in the inventory. Ding. The reward is given and stored in the inventory. Allan breathed in relief, and at this time, Netero said, "Since it is proven that the Empress is Allan's fiancée, then I announce that she can stay in the association as Allan's family." Netero's words are equivalent to giving Hancock the right to enter and exit the association freely. Allan glanced at Netero gratefully, while everyone else didn't have any objection. The only one who didn't want to accept this was Kanzai since Hancock beat him, but he didn't comment. Allan next brought Hancock and went to stand beside Kurapika. "Allan, is she your fiancée?" Allan nodded and took Hancock's hand and said, "She is Boa Hancock, but I suggest that you don't call her as such." Kurapika and the other nodded as they saw her character and knew that only Allan could call her by her name. Boa Hancock nodded arrogantly without saying anything. She was thinking about escaping from Allan's grasp while Allan pretended that he didn't know. As long as she stayed obedient, Allan won't do anything excessive. At most, he would hug her waist or hold her hands. Although Hancock was very upset about this, she was helpless and could only cooperate temporarily with Allan. Maybe if he is happy one day, he will send her back. Of course, it was a slight possibility. At this time, Netero on the stage said, "Okay, it's time for the second round. Let's continue the exam. There are currently 5 contestants, Hisaka, Killua, Hanzo, Pakul, and Badoro. If Hanzo doesn't face Hisoka, he will mostly pass the exam. While Killua is strong, Hanzo had a longer time to train and could defeat him right now. Then, for the first match, number 44, Hisoka, against number 53, Pakul. Hisoka glanced at Pakul and walked onto the stage. Pakul was frustrated. He looked at Netero and said, "Chairman, I have something to say." "What's the matter?" Netero asked. Pakul boldly said, "I will be blunt, but the matching is very unfair." "How so?" Netero asked again, but everyone knew that he was pretending to be confused. Pool pondered for a bit, then said, "Everyone can see that Hisoka is stronger, and I won't be able to fight him. Chairman, you arranged this match unfairly." "Don't worry. This isn't a duel won by knockout. As long as you don't admit defeat, you won't lose. And Hisoka can't kill you, or he will be eliminated." "It has to be me," Pakul said desperately as he walked onto the stage. The match started, and Pakul instantly took out his bow and arrows without hesitation and aimed at Hisoka. Hisoka stretched his hand, and as the arrow flew toward him, he grabbed it with 2 fingers. Then he gently twisted his fingers and snapped the arrow. The next second, Hisoka disappeared and arrived in front of Pakul. Pakul was shocked and released another arrow, only to hear Hisoka's voice from behind. "I'm here," Hisoka said with a playful tone as Pakul felt a chill run through his spine. "Don't move. Be careful. You might lose your head," Hisoka said with a smile. He saw Hisoka's hand holding a playing card that drew some blood as it pressed against his neck. Hisoka smiled and said, "You should know what to do now." Pakul sighed and said, "Okay, I admit defeat." "Well, smart choice, so you don't get hurt," Hisoka said with a smile and put away the card. Netero announced that Hisoka is the winner and Pakul will get another chance to fight. Next match, Killua against Badoro. Hanzo will fight in the next round. Netero announced. And that's the end of this amazing story. Huge thanks to the original creators for their hard work. Be sure to check them out and show some love. I really appreciate you sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed this audiobook, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome fanfiction. Your support helps keep this project going and brings even more great stories to the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. P.S. There won't be any more videos on this because the story starts getting weird after this point. But if you want to keep reading, I've linked the continuation in the description.